You start CPR. You get the pulse back. You hand the patient off and then go right back to service or your everyday life. But have you ever wondered what happened with the patient next? What if that person that you helped save lived another 27 years? Long enough to walk both his daughters down the aisle, to watch his grandchildren grow up, and even meet his great-grandchildren. All because one day, when his heart stopped, somebody stepped forward and started CPR. That is the saved effect. Welcome to the Real ResQ Podcast. Real voices, real stories, real rescues from those called to step forward on someone else's worst day. A special thank you to our sponsors to help make this episode possible. Switlick Survival Products, manufacturing the highest quality safety and survival products for aviation, marine, and military markets. Go to switlick.com to learn more. Ready Bar, the only bar that is a real meal wherever you go. Go to getreadybar.com to order yours today and save 10% by using the discount code RESQ10. And if you're looking for more great deals, head over to therealresq.com and check out the growing list of partners offering deals specifically for this audience. Save some money while supporting the companies that support our community. Now, coming up next, I'm joined by a father and daughter team who have spent their lives around emergency medicine from two very different perspectives. Together, they wrote The Saved Effect, exploring not only the moment someone's life has been saved, but the ripple effect in everything that person has done afterward. Please welcome to the show, Brad and Kiera Newbury. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ Podcast. I'm in the studio with Brad Newbury, one of my friends and fellow instructor, teacher of mine, and his daughter, Kiera Newbury. Good to see you guys. I have stories about her. I have stories about him. This is awesome. But we're here with National Medical Education and Training Center, NMETC, which was my paramedic program. So thank you for allowing me to come here and do this with you guys. And yeah, we're in your building. And we're going to talk about you, rescues that the both of you have done, and a new book that you just wrote and put out collectively together. Freaking awesome.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thanks for having us on your podcast.
Yeah,
It's going to be amazing.
So I went through the paramedic program here in 2013-ish, paramedic program, class number 23. That was a little while ago.
We're up to 151 right now.
That was a little while ago.
It was a while ago.
I'm considered like the old guard.
Oh, absolutely. The OG, yeah, right. In our original space here. This is our third iteration of our school, and
So
where we
3 buildings ago?
3 buildings ago, yeah.
3 buildings ago, but still across the street.
Got it. Okay.
We're still in pretty much the geographical location of a quarter of a mile from where we started, and we've moved 3 times. So, well, twice.
And the facility that we're in now is just enormous. It's huge.
Yeah, we have about 24,000 square feet here.
That's, oh my gosh.
We started in 4,000 when you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Top floor, walking around, a little like circular hallway. Kiera giving me a hard time with everything. Oh, I like One Direction. Well, the Beatles are better. It was a straight up argument for a week. I didn't lose that, by the way. I just.
I think I remember it differently.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I know you and I have another story.
You must feel old because she was only 10.
I don't feel old at all.
Okay, you look great.
Thank you.
Look great.
Thank you. No, I don't.
All right,
I'm
all
not
right.
getting old. Are you getting old?
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
you're.
I have 40 years in fire and EMS.
Okay, you might.
I don't feel it though. In my head, I'm still 19.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's where I am.
Maybe 22. That way we can have a beer together.
I don't drink.
Oh, perfect. Okay, then I'll have a beer for both of us.
I've never been drunk in my life.
Good for you.
No way to get to the story of why.
So the next story, like Kiera and I, so she was amazing at intubations. Like, yeah. You can absolutely brag about that. And the joke of the class when we showed up here is, Brad, you were like, do not challenge her. She will win. Well, as you and I had our little banter back and forth and we were having some fun, it was like, challenge accepted. And have no illusion, I had my butt kicked and I lost. And I mean, it was down to like seconds, maybe, but I will still give you credit.
We just recently did a interview with the ABC affiliate Channel 5 out of Boston.
Okay.
And I actually found a video that one of our students, when she was 10, Joey, one of our students, had sent to me way back in 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, 13 years ago, and they actually played that video. I'll send you the link. They played the video in the opening part of the interview with Kiera and I, which was pretty funny. So yeah.
How old are you? 10. Okay, go ahead.
This is Kiera Newbury. You heard her at 10 years old, practicing EMT skills. Not many kids grow up spending their spare time at a medical education training center, but Kiera's parents run one.
I would practice intubating mannequins, and I would challenge the students to see if I could beat them and be faster than them. But when you came to me and you had said that you were up for the challenge, to me, I was like, yes, because at that point, I had taken so many souls that my dad...
She was like David Goggins of Airway Management Lab, just taking souls in there.
But my dad had now prefaced the class with, do not challenge her. She will beat you. So people were scared.
Nobody... Some were scared, but others are like, bring it on.
Yeah,
bring it on, like this guy.
Yeah. I think it might have been a technicality too, because we were rushed. Because your dad's like yelling at me, come take the school picture. And I'm like, I'm busy trying to kick your daughter's ass over here. And then I lost and had to go out and be like, oh, guys, I lost.
Excuses.
You know what? I'm giving it to you. All right, I'm giving it to you. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So I want to touch on this book real quick, The Saved Effect. You guys wrote it together. Give me a little bit of history on that one.
So I think first, let's start off with the premise of the book is about individuals that were saved from out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, drowning, or some critical emergency where either their heart stopped or airway was blocked, and then they went on to live after they were rescued. And whether it be an actual rescue, like the Bobby O'Donnell story we'll talk about, or whether it was an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest that they were resuscitated from, and then they went on to live this incredible arc of time. Or even if it, and there's some very powerful stories about two individuals that lived more than 25 plus years post-resuscitation. Wow. And I was involved in those calls. We can talk about them. But it really showed me that I was teaching into, I probably even told the story at your graduation. At every graduation, I would do a talk, and really the name of that was, what does it mean to save a life? And I really go back to Frank Nagel and his story when in 1994, I was involved in Frank's resuscitation. And Frank, with a great story, Frank, and we can get into it, but Frank lived another 25 years, and I stayed connected to the family. But if you think about that long arc of time of everything that Frank got to do, because he didn't die that day, when he got to be there for all of his family, we actually brought his, Frank's passed away since then, but I interviewed his daughters, his son, and talk about what did it really mean to have dad back for 25 more years.
Dang.
It was incredibly impactful. And Kiera and I, for all of these stories, we brought folks in here to our studio. We interviewed them on camera. There's a box of tissues here because it is so emotional. Like the two of us, like they're crying, we're crying. Like Jake's crying over there, our director of media. I mean, it's super powerful. But just to think about the impact, the true impact that we make, and to your listeners too, they're out there, they're rescuing people, and they probably never get to see this really incredible arc of time of what came after, and they never really get to hear the story. We might sometimes have where you have an individual who they bring back a few months later after a save, and everybody gets hugs all the way around.
Thank you so much for saving me.
Yeah, that's it. Then we never hear from them ever again.
Yeah,
and so. We had some of these stories that I personally was involved in, and some other ones that we curated for the book, and that we knew that this was such a powerful emotional connection, particularly for first responders, because it would really reconnect them back to their whys. Like, why do they get up and do what they do every day?
Yeah.
And then how do they connect emotionally with the job that they're doing? And sometimes, as you know, and all your listeners know, how really hard emotionally, physically, our jobs can be. And I've been in the fire service now for 40 years. And I've been on both sides of that, of the rescuer and the rescued.
That's really cool.
Right? So being able to really think about that, and then have this idea of writing this down and codifying it for the audience, and it's twofold. There's a bigger mission around this book.
Okay.
And I think, the one mission of bringing it back to first responders, and for them to see what the true impact of what they do every day, and how does it impact families.
Yep.
That's number one, because that was super cathartic for me, and to not only write them, but listen to these stories. But the other part is that individual lay people who are going to read this book, at the end of every chapter, it says, be inspired, get trained in CPR, and be ready and willing to act. It's literally the bold text at the end of every chapter.
Oh, that's cool.
And really what we're trying to do with this book is create a movement where if you can inspire people through storytelling, it touches their heart.
Yeah.
Right. And Kiera and I recently, as we begin this journey, we started asking people, what would happen if your loved one, the person that you love most, was sitting right next to you, and all of a sudden they stopped breathing, they didn't have a pulse? Would you know what to do?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question.
And many times we've got.
Yeah, most people don't.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And what was that young lady? What did she say to us when?
She said she would go on YouTube.
Oh my gosh.
But the first thing that happens on YouTube is an ad. Now you have to sit there for at least 10 seconds before you can hit skip ad, and then you have another one. It's the 2 out of 2 now, and your loved one's on the floor dying.
So clearly that's not an option, right?
Yeah,
so we said, okay,
go
first,
to YouTube. I've never heard anybody say that before. That's funny.
Well, think about today's kids.
Yeah.
Right. So
how do you learn something?
her generation, her generation is
Which
going to go
great
to social media.
to fix a car
For
or
sure.
fix something else,
Yeah.
but not to save a life in the moment.
No.
Maybe to prepare you for before, but
Dang, I never even thought of that.
So that's like that first instinct is pick up the phone, let's figure it out, as opposed to, how about we start with 911? Let's call 911. And many systems across our country, if you call 911, they will give you CPR instructions over the phone, even if you don't know it. Right?
Yeah, they'll say, put me on speaker.
But
I'm going to walk you through it.
what we learned yesterday from Dr. Antevi was that the time from person to ground to that first compression, even through dispatch-assisted CPR, is pretty significant.
Interesting. Wow.
So time is of the essence, right? And the folks that don't know CPR, I mean, every minute an individual goes who's in cardiac arrest decreases survivability by 10%. And we're already behind the 8 ball. Only, without bystander CPR, you have about a 3% chance of surviving just on a 911 call for somebody to come. And that goes up almost threefold with bystander CPR. So we know we can save a lot more lives if we can change this message.
So it's funny you say that because, so I've done CPR, and I've done CPR to people that have made it, and I've done CPR to people that haven't made it. And there's quite a bit of non-emphasis on the, oh, by the way, they're not going to make it. Like, it's not going to work. And it's kind of scary to think about. At the same time, like, you start CPR and the chances go up dramatically. And I've watched people walk out of the hospital. Or one of my favorites is being in the back of the ambulance. We're starting CPR. The lady had lockjaw, so we couldn't intubate her. We ended up just doing like a nasal cannula, compressions. And all of a sudden, she comes back and we're like blown away. So now we're going into RosQ, and next thing you know, you're like, she's having a conversation like, wow, my chest really hurts. And I'm like, ha ha, winner us. That was awesome. And I mean, what she needed was a full-on hospital, which happened. But like an hour later, we're back there with another victim or another patient. And she's sitting up in the bed and having a conversation. And we're like, you were literally dead like 30 minutes ago or whatever it was. And
where's she now today?
I have no idea.
That's what I mean.
And so I'm glad you said that, because I think about that a lot. And I actually talk about it on this podcast a lot. Our job in any rescue aspect, for me, U.S. Coast Guard, for you fire department, I'm going to throw police department, any first responders, their job, go out, get somebody, help somebody, bring them back, drop them off at the hospital. They need cold, hard steel. They need whatever they need. And then we go back to work. We're back on call. We're not off duty. Hey, congratulations, high five. Let's go have a drink and celebrate. No. It's drop them off. You good? We've given them to the next level of care, whatever it is. And then we're back to duty.
Yeah.
I'm going to take you one further. Even in the emergency room, it's very similar to that. You guys drop them off to us.
Yeah.
And then we maybe see them for 3 days. But then we send them up to the floors.
And 3 days is a long time. Like, that's not normal.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's
That's
yeah.
right, and that's when we have no beds available,
Right.
and the XYZ is happening in the hospital. And however, our job is to take care of them in that moment, same way yours is, and send them off somewhere else.
ICU or whatever.
Yeah,
get
Kiera,
more specialized
we
care.
were sitting
Yeah.
here and we were having a conversation with someone, and Kiera brought that up, and I was like, I never actually thought
No,
that,
nor did I.
right? Because
Like it's a new thing for me too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kiera.
you know what it is? It's a different perspective, right? We have a certain perspective, and exactly what you said. I bring a patient in. There are times, particularly when I work non-transport, is where some of these things were. We were in 2 paramedics in an SUV,
Yeah.
serving a massive a geographical area and a huge population, and we're doing 8,000 runs in our 1 paramedic unit, and so there was times when we're transporting the hospital, the page is going off. We get to the hospital, the page is going off again. Like, so we have calls that are stacking, and we haven't even dropped that patient off yet,
Yeah.
right? And so literally, like, there's times, including Frank's story, where we dropped him off, and then same thing. We're leaving. He's talking to his son in the dock, and Debbie and I go into another call, and right after that, and then actually we had another cardiac arrest within maybe 2 hours of that call, and we're coming back from the hospital. I'll never forget it. Deb looks over at me and says, "We're 1 for 2 today, because that other cardiac arrest didn't make it."
Dang.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, and I never forgot that. I mean, that was 1994. And I remember Deb just looked at me, she goes, "We're 1 for 2 today." And there were times, particularly in that service, where we could have 3-4 cardiac arrests in a day, because we serve such a huge area.
Right.
So,
Well, that's like, so again, your world versus my world. And I want to bring into, like, you want to get a little further deeper in the background of you.
okay.
Yes, Kiera, I'm coming to YouTube, I promise. But from my world is like helicopter rescue, U.S. Coast Guard stuff, and even civilian side. Like, our call volume is not 8,000 calls a year. That's not a thing.
Right.
Maybe 1 or 2 a week. Like, in my busiest times, I think we had 1 every day over a 2-week period. But that's not normal for me. Like,
Yeah.
so, and a lot of our transports are, depending on where it is, could be an hour or 2-hour transport, either from offshore or some vessel or whatever. So you guys are like, pick them up, 10 minutes, well, maybe 20. You're at the hospital, drop off, on to the next one.
Right.
So, like, did you even get a name? Like, really?
I used to, at the end of my shift, honestly, at the end of my shift, what would happen is my partner and I, and many times I'd have these little slips of paper in my pockets, and my jump pockets, and they were just like, from my notepad, I'd write the name, and or I'd take a sticky note or something, I'd write their name down, their date of birth, and I would write the town, because we covered 16 different towns in my service.
Oh, wild. Oh,
right?
good idea. Yeah.
And I could go back to we actually kept, back then, we kept a paper log, and we had to keep our own times because we didn't actually have a dispatcher. So we'll get into why, right? We were a hospital-based system where we served all the fire departments on the South Shore of Massachusetts, from Hull to Situate, all the way out to here, West Bridgewater. There's 16 towns. And so I worked there full-time. I worked part-time for St. Luke's Hospital in New Bedford, which we covered, which is a small inner city. And that's where we were so busy, where we covered the inner city and we covered all the surrounding towns. So 2 paramedics and an SUV responding out to meet the fire department ambulances, the BLS ambulances in the 90s. Today, paramedics in many of the fire departments have paramedics. Everybody has medics that are coming, not so much in the regional system. So we had regional systems back then. But we can talk, if you want me to talk about like origin and go from there. But
I'll tell you, let's bring a little background of you. Like, so you're from Massachusetts? Like,
no,
no, you're not.
Not originally.
Okay.
No.
where are you from?
Okay.
What brought you to Massachusetts, and like firefighter, paramedic, and then all the way into developing the school?
So
I know there's a lot there.
that's a
Jeez.
lot to unpack.
That
I'm
is-
56. You want me to unpack that in 5 minutes?
Less, even less.
Okay, yeah. So I started out as a young volunteer in Tiverton, Rhode Island, at 16 years old. I literally, it really, my story started before that when I was watching Johnny and Roy on Emergency, sitting in front of my black and white TV with my brother, watching these two LA County paramedics.
Okay, he might be a little old. Sorry, man. Sorry.
All right. So,
Although I did have a black and white TV going on, but I did have both.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
So,
I digress.
So that was, when I was really young in the 70s, that was the beginning of the inspiration. And then I had an uncle in the Fall River Fire Department, which is a small city in Massachusetts. And I would actually go to the firehouse and do ride-alongs when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old. And so my mom would literally drop me off. I had incredible parents that they loved me to death, but it seemed like they didn't care about me because they let me do these crazy things. But my dad was a Force Recon Marine, right? He was a Special Forces guy. So yeah, so we can talk about a little bit about that too. But anyway, so that's really where it started. And the day I turned 16, I joined the volunteer fire department. Literally August 12th that year, because that's my birthday. They had a meeting at the firehouse, and I got voted in as a volunteer. At the end of the meeting, they gave me turnout gear, a helmet, some boots, and slapped me on the butt and told me like, okay, we'll train you later, but there you go. They gave me a radio, and my mom and dad made a deal with Tanya's dad.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't even know the story.
I don't know the story. And Tanya, let's throw her a little shout out here because I love Tanya. Tanya works for the school. She at the time when I came through, she was like the secretary, or she was
like managing her office.
Yeah. And
now she does admissions.
Okay, so she is awesome, and
yeah, we love her.
I was on I literally called her out of the blue sometimes and say, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? What are you doing today?
We got to send her a picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Tanya and I grew up together. We went to high school together.
That's awesome.
And her dad, Bernie, owned the local bait shop, but he was a firefighter. He was a full-time career firefighter in Tiverton. Now in Tiverton, there were 4 firehouses. We covered 32 square miles. And there was a paid firefighter in each of the firehouses, basically, to drive the trucks. And the rest of the workforce were all volunteer. So we would either show up in a private vehicle. But since I was 16 years old, in my junior and senior year of high school, I lived at the station. I slept there every night. But my mom was really worried, of course, being a 16-year-old kid, that I'm joining the fire department. And there was no restrictions back then. Meaning, if you were a firefighter, you're a firefighter. Like interior firefighting, you were. And back in the 80s, we had lots of fires. And so my father, to smooth it over with my mother, said, and he was good friends with Bernie, right? And my dad used the two of them playing practical jokes on each other. But so Bernie, my dad went to Bernie and said, hey, listen, Brad really wants to be on the fire department. Would you train him? And he said, absolutely. So that was a deal my dad made with my mom to allow me to go join the fire department, is that Tanya's father would train me. So every day that Bernie was on duty, I would go to the firehouse and he would train me. I mean, Bernie had me crawling around the firehouse. He's yelling at me, throwing things at me. Like it was awesome, right? And so I had this great group of men there, because there were no women at the time. And it wasn't just Bernie. There were other folks that were within that department, Mike Gorman, and there was a retired Master Chief, Tom Leahy, who was a damage control officer on the Kitty Hawk.
Oh,
right?
Nice.
And like he was he was very instrumental in the way that we showed up every day. He taught me one thing that has stuck with me. He taught me a bunch of things, but one incredible thing that has stuck with me, and I teach it to my own firefighters now. In damage control, one of the things on an aircraft carrier is you have to do a FOD walk, right? One object walk. And so he would say to me all the time, never pass a problem. Not on the fire ground, not in the firehouse, and not in life, right? Because he had, grown up teaching into these young seamen, like if you're walking along the deck of a carrier and there's a screw or whatever it is, never pass a problem.
That's
Because
great advice.
right? So I took that with me, and it's so funny because I've said that to some of my firefighters. They're like, Cap, you've ruined my life. I can't walk by anything now. But so as a young volunteer, that was the beginning of my career, and then I always wanted to be I wanted to be a paramedic. because I wanted to be Johnny and Roy. And I really wanted to be Johnny because he got all the girls. I ended up being Roy. Although we just lost Johnny Gage. Randy Mantooth just passed away at 80 years old. He was the biggest champion for EMS, despite he was never a paramedic. He just played one on TV for a few years.
Yeah.
But he has been involved in EMS and championing the fire service his entire life since then, since the 70s.
Oh.
And I mean, he would give keynotes. I mean, I have great pictures with him. I got to meet him several times. He was just an amazing guy, and he just passed away. So rest in peace, Randy Mantooth.
Yeah.
But so as I wanted to become, I went, I was I got a scholarship to go to engineering school.
Okay.
And my goal was after high school to go to fire protection engineering, to design fire protection systems, but also be on the fire department. I always wanted to be a firefighter. And the program that I got into, it was too expensive. And back in the 80s, there was no money for that. You couldn't get student aid like you can today. So I ended up getting a scholarship to SMU, Southern Massachusetts University, which is now UMass Dartmouth. And so I get this scholarship, and I go to school, and I spend a couple of weeks in there, but like a month and a half. And they didn't have fire protection engineering. I went to electrical engineering, and I hated it. I wanted to be a firefighter. So I quit school. I literally quit school. My mother didn't talk to me for a month. True story. She was so mad as a hornet, right? My father said to me, "Okay, what do you want to do?" I told him. He's like, "Okay, well, now you got to get a job." And so I started out, like I left school, and I needed to go to EMT school. I found a job as a chair car driver. I've literally come full circle, right? I was a chair car driver, and I loved that job at that time in my life.
A chair car driver?
Yeah, so like a wheelchair van.
Oh,
right. So
that's funny.
And so I started out.
Did you know what that was? Oh,
so I started out driving people in a wheelchair. I mean, I used to have one client I'd take, Friday afternoons. Fernando, I still remember his name, and he had Joseph's disease, which is a neuromuscular disease. We had the best time. I used to take him to, from Fall River all the way to Waltham, which is a little over an hour, for therapy at McLean's Hospital.
Okay.
I mean, I would take the guy was like homebound in the projects, right? And so I would take him we start off, we go to McDonald's, like on the way home, we stop at the beach. Like it was just, I had an amazing time because I love people, right? That's awesome. And so that was how I started out as my career in the ambulance service. And then I went to EMT school and became an EMT, and then started working private EMS, all while I was still living at the firehouse. And I mean living. Like I would come home every day, I would sleep at the firehouse and go on calls. And so that really shaped who I am today as a firefighter, as a person, as a man, in so many different ways. Those influences of those amazing people, Tanya's dad, like I said, Mike Gorman, some other folks that were there in the firehouse. And then I went to paramedic school in 1989.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny. I just looked at my certificate from graduation. I'm applying for a state license in a different state. For us to be able to have students there, I have to be a program director in that state. So I had to get all this data. I had to get all this stuff together. So I go back and I'm like, here's my original certificate from paramedic school, 1989.
Blow the cobwebs off.
Yes, there was a little bit of dust.
Roasted by your daughter.
Actually, what was harder to find was they required my high school diploma. I had to go find that.
Did you find it?
I did.
I have no idea where mine is.
Yeah, so I actually found it this morning, stuck in my bookcase.
So make the joke again.
Yeah.
Say it again. Roasted again by your daughter.
Oh, that's constant. That's daily.
Okay, yeah.
That is daily.
I feel that pain. Okay.
Yep.
Daughters roast me all the time. It's awesome.
So once I joined, I started working private EMS, and then went on to get a job in a hospital-based EMS system. At first at South Shore Hospital and as well as at St. Luke's Hospital, and those were formidable days as a young paramedic, because they were not only, and at first I started off working in Quincy, Massachusetts, small city. So I had 3 years in the inner city there. Not really inner city like Boston, but it's a city, right? And there's a lot of problems, so I started there. I had an amazing partner originally, Charlie Blathers. Charlie actually is one of the managers at MedFlight that Bobby O'Donnell works for.
Okay.
But Charlie was an amazing young, mentor, because I was you have to understand, I became a paramedic when I was 20 years old. So I could give drugs, but I couldn't drink alcohol. And Charlie really helped shape the way that I learned as a young paramedic. I mean, Charlie mentored me really well on the medicine side too. But I also had some incredible mentors on the human side. And because I think there's two, especially as a young man, you really begin to struggle because I'm trying to grow up, right? I'm only 20, 21 years old. So I'm trying to be a young man, but I'm also trying to be a caregiver when I didn't know what that meant.
Right,
I
right.
truly didn't know what being a caregiver meant. I mean, I knew my paramedic skills. I knew all the medicine side flat. And it wasn't until one day when I was working with Deb Downey, who just retired from our school. She was our clinical director here for 10 years. And Deb and I we come on for shift change in the morning, and there was a crew there, and they had told about, it's like, you always joke, right? We had a cardiac arrest in the middle of the night. There's no gas, no oxygen. The drugs were all messed up. But we'll see you later, right? They're teasing. But they said, listen, we had a cardiac arrest at 3 a.m. We checked everything. Everything's good, but just check the truck. So we do. And several hours later, we get a response to an elderly high-rise. And we walk in, and this woman is sitting at the table, and she has her head in her hands, and she's crying. And Deb just pulls up a chair, sits next to her, puts her arm around her, and says to her, "Ma'am, what seems to be the problem today?" And the woman says, I don't know what to do. And Deb's like, "What do you mean?" And she tells her that her husband of 60 years passed away in the middle of the night. So that cardiac arrest that we had just learned about, that the crew that we relieved, it was her husband.
Oh my gosh.
And she's like, "We've been married for 60 years. He took care of everything. I don't know what to do." And see, she didn't need medicine. She didn't need us. There was nothing clinically wrong with her.
Yeah.
But she was distraught. And here she is that she had come back from the hospital. She's sitting there, and she just doesn't know what to do. So literally, Deb she's crying. Deb's crying. I'm crying. Like, I don't know how to manage this as a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know the emotions that are
Yeah.
running through me like crazy. And by the time we left there, Deb had me, we made her lunch. I made her soup. I took out the trash, and I fed her cat.
That's
Right?
awesome.
And
Oh my
and the
gosh.
whole time, I remember just like driving back to the ambulance base, and we didn't transport her, but we stayed with her for like an hour and a half, and just loved on her. And because there's a whole human side to what we do.
Oh, for sure.
And too many times, over my career, I've seen like we try to keep it sterile, but there's no way. And that's one of the things I wanted to bring about in the book. But I think about that was a defining moment for me in my career, where I switched from just being a provider to being a caregiver.
Yeah.
And that was huge for me. And then eventually I went on, and I left Quincy, went to Social Hospital, high volume. Our 2 trucks did about 14,000 runs a year.
Oh
2
my good
trucks.
Lord.
And we covered, there was nothing for me in 12 hours to go do, 12, 15 responses.
Wow.
No, and we only went to ALS jobs. We didn't go to, Nana fell down or any of those BLS calls. We only went to ALS calls. But you have to understand, we covered such a massive geographical area and a large population, like almost 300,000 people. So we were constantly running. And we had our downtime too, where 2 mischievous paramedics like Deb Doherty and I would get ourselves in hot water sometimes. But
Isn't that par for the course and part of the job?
of course,
Like,
of course.
even as supervisor, like, you're like, I know it's coming, or like, you just know.
But those formidable years built an incredible skill set, because you think about it, we as services, we were doing, each one of us were doing around 100 intubations a year, right? Can you even think about that now? Like in a service, most service areas are doing, maybe there's cities like in Boston where you only have a handful of ALS trucks for the whole city. When I say a handful, I'm talking about 5, maybe impact times, and I don't know exactly, maybe 6 or 7 for the whole city. The rest are BLS, right?
Okay.
So you think those paramedics and those systems are getting the skill sets on a regular basis, and every single day we went to work, we were doing these skills. And so you built up mastery of those skills. And you think about today, where you have a young paramedic who comes into my department, they might intubate 1 patient a year, 2 patients a year, right? A bad day was we didn't intubate anybody, right? So that, and also too, there are other things that impact that, right? We have CPAP now, we have other, honestly, like the criticality of patients that we saw back in the 90s and even the early 2000s has changed because of modern medicine and the way that we take care of people with managed care. So I think a lot of things have changed since the early '90s when I first became a paramedic. But that set the journey. So in 1997, I got a career fire job. So I started working for the Stoughton Fire Department as a career firefighter paramedic, and I've been there ever since. But in the meantime, I also worked as a volunteer. I say work, but I mean I was a volunteer. So even though I was working as a paramedic in these busy systems, I was still a volunteer firefighter, going to calls, going to live at the firehouse, sleeping at the firehouse, and I just that's who I was. I mean, that's not only just my, I don't want to say my identity, but that's why I grew up in fire and EMS. Literally, my entire adult life has been dedicated to serving other people in an amazing way, and it has been an incredible journey when I look back on that, and then that's kind of what led me here today. I came up through the ranks as a lieutenant, as a company officer, and now today I serve as a captain. In my department, we don't have battalion chiefs.
Okay.
But that's my role. So I'm in an SUV. I'm a shift commander. Actually, now it's a pickup truck. But I'm in a command vehicle. So every day I go to work, my role is as the incident commander. And so you think about all these years now coming together in this now command role in my department. And so it's been an incredible journey.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do want to ask a little bit more about the school. This was my paramedic journey, and I looked at multiple places, and based on my work schedule, and I was traveling 2 weeks down in the Gulf, so 2 weeks there and then 2 weeks home. Plus sometimes I was traveling in between. So a normal classroom paramedic course was not going to work for me. And this was the only one that really fit the bill for what I could do. And I am so grateful of that because I've been a paramedic ever since, and I am not letting that lapse. Holy cow, hell no. So, but what made you want to do the school? What made you want to?
So I was in 2000 and the beginning of the 2000s, 2003, 2004. I started seeing paramedic students because we were always precepting students in our services because we were high volume, busy. And so we were always seeing students, and I was starting to really see a degradation of the education that was coming from these students. And I started seeing their knowledge, their skill, their ability was not to the same standard that I graduated with.
Got it. Okay.
The standards started to seem to be eroding. And what was also happening too, when I first went to paramedic school, there were only 2 paramedic programs in the state.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
And now all of a sudden we had a bunch of them. And they're now they were all mostly private, and they were all competing for that student, those dollars too. And anytime you have business and competition and people, money starts to get involved, they allow standards to drop.
Right.
And I really felt a couple of things. One, I'd spent by that point more than 10 years, 10, 12 years in pre-hospital medicine and in the fire service. And more in the fire service, but really in pre-hospital medicine. And I thought to myself, we can do this better, and we should do it better.
Yeah. And
so I had an opportunity in 2004 to go work for a different school and start a paramedic program. And so I said, okay, I'm in, right? I want to do this. I still worked as I was at that time, I was a lieutenant. I was an engine officer. And the same thing in my department back then. We were one engine company. We were, in my engine company, we were busy days. Yeah. And I actually talk about that in my first book. I mean, I created a book along this journey of, to help other first responders, folks like you who want to start up and grow a business. Yeah. I've had all these great experiences in this business here. So in 2000, I was teaching the local paramedic program, and in 2005, it was Christmas time. And to think about the program that you went to, this young lady came to me. I was teaching a refresher, and because it was the end of the year, the people that wait, they need their Con Ed, they need their refresher. I'm teaching this refresher class, and she came to me and she said, listen, I know you teach the local paramedic program. She said, do you have any alternatives for me to come to class other than just coming to the traditional in-person class? And I said, well, tell me more. What's the challenge? And she said, well, I have 5 children. My husband's a dirtbag. Those are her words. I'll never forget it because she said, awesome. She says, he doesn't support me. He doesn't pay me child support. I live with my mom and I work 60 to 80 hour work weeks, but I want to be a paramedic.
Wow.
And at first I said, no, I don't have anything like that. I don't know how I could help you.
Yeah.
So her story really resonated with me. I drove home that night, and Kim, my wife, who you know, is sitting at the computer in her little office in our house online doing her bachelor's degree in nursing at UMass Boston. And I was like, well, if we're doing this for nursing, why can't we do this for EMS?
For sure.
Because there was nobody doing this. I mean, nobody. And so I went on this journey to solve this problem, to help that woman and try to figure out, like, folks like yourself who would have never come to paramedic school.
Yeah,
Like, you
no.
would have had to quit your job and moved or do whatever. And so it was like, hey, this is a big problem. I see a big problem. And can I create? And actually, I was only doing it locally. Initially, the first 2 classes, this is incredible. I had to go to our state EMS office. I had to get approval. Everybody, there's a bunch of naysayers telling me, you can't do this, including the National Registry is calling me, like, what are you doing? And
Of course.
and so
Of course they are.
yeah, of course, everybody was all out.
Yeah. All out on the negative. I'm gonna throw that out. Oh man, I'm gonna go on a soapbox for a second, because there's a lot of times, like the regulations and the standard operating procedures, when that system gets bucked, people have a hard time with it. Whoa. That's not how we do it.
Yeah.
This is the way we've always done it.
You can't train paramedics online.
Oh yeah. Well, this is the way we've always done it. That line drives me mental.
You know what my favorite saying around that is?
Can't wait.
Dinosaurs lay eggs.
Yes.
Because they feel like, this is how I learned. You have to learn the same way. They teach other, they lay an egg because they're teaching you as the new instructor coming in. This is the only way you can do it, as opposed to, let's be innovative. Let's think about different ways. And I will tell you right now, like, Kiera has forced us, and we'll talk a little bit about it, forced us as a school to be better.
That's awesome.
Because of her insight and her, different perspective on problems and the way that we teach, her education that she got in college, and how we've even compared to the program that you went to in 2013 is drastically different than the program of today in 2026.
That's awesome.
Drastically different.
Yeah.
And I think we would be doing our profession, our students, a massive disservice if we continued to teach the way we taught 13 years ago.
For sure.
And not that was bad. I mean, at the time, it was innovative. It was great.
Yeah.
And we have great outcomes. We continue to have great outcomes. And even though, we have around a 95% first-time pass rate for our students, and we sit there every year, multiple times a year, and say, okay, how can we get better? And some people are like, 95%. The national average is 70% first-time pass, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, how can you get 5% better? And sometimes, so I've heard, from even some of the meetings, I mean, it's like, well, 5% might be a student issue. I was like, okay, but, can we get better? Is there things that we should be doing that can impact those 5%?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think there is. Yeah. And so I think there are times that we can really impact the way that students learn, but give them opportunity. Right now, downstairs, we're going to go downstairs later and walk around. You're going to meet students. We have 7 people downstairs from Alaska. We have like 5 from Oregon, Washington State, all over the country, along this journey. And when I opened our own school in 2010, people ask me, like, did you ever envision this? And the answer is absolutely not. Like, absolutely not. I mean, I think there's no way. And this is where you ever get that interview question where they say to you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, 5 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what can change in 5 years?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I think 6 months. I'm like, I'm scheduling out for 6 months from now. Like,
one interaction with one person can change your life. You have no idea what's going to happen in 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? So no, I never envisioned NMETC being one of the largest EMS schools in the country. I never envisioned that we would now be the number one school training all the paramedic students in Iceland. Right? I never envisioned that throughout the Caribbean, throughout other places in the country, that we would be the school that is training and impacting those communities and those areas. And that, we're going to talk about the saved effect and how that came about. But if you think about the thousands of graduates that we have had here and the impact that they're making on people's lives every day around the country and around the world, I could have never envisioned that.
Right.
I was just trying to help a young woman solve a problem.
Yeah.
And then of course the vision got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and here we are today, right?
Yeah.
And we started out in that little school at 4,000 square feet. Now here we are at 24,000 square feet, right? And so it's been an incredible journey.
That's cool. It's funny because we say it all the time, like it's a practice of medicine, right? So medicine is always evolving to get better and better, but so many people want to go into the training aspect and they're like, oh no, this is the way we always did it.
Well, for anyone in your listening, they've been in been a EMS for a while.
Yeah.
Let's not kid anybody. Like the medicine has changed.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Different drugs.
unknowingly,
Yeah.
we used to kill people more efficiently. I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. But the reality of that is there, think about just the evolution of defibrillation.
Yeah.
We'd walk in, we'd start off with 3 stack shocks and no CPR. No CPR whatsoever, just start shocking the patient.
Right.
And then we learned that, we'd be like, okay, start off, we have course VFib, shock, and it gets a little finer, shock, maybe even more finer, shock, asystole. All right, I guess that's it. We'll start CPR. So literally we would go in and shock someone 3 times. And you think about it, you're like shock, then you have to charge the monitor, you're eating away at time. Right. And there's no CPR being done. Back in the day.
Compressions, just get on compressions. And we know that now.
But the thing is at the time with the information that we had, we thought that was the best care that we could provide.
Right.
And then medicine, that practice of medicine evolves over time.
Right.
And here we are today, right?
I love it.
Yeah.
Brad, thank you so much for running through that. All right, Kiera, I'll tell you what, bring us like a little bit about you from the area and what brought you into the medicine and what you're doing today.
Well, I think that if you stayed through my dad's long story, then you'll probably know that I was really encapsulated by all of this field and this realm ever since I was 2. He mentioned going into education in 2004, and at that point I was 2 years old. And I was really in these classrooms, and a lot of the students, as you know, EMS is a community, it's a family. And so going into these classrooms at such a young age, the instructors, the students, everybody took me under their wing. They treated me as a little sister.
Love it.
And so as I grew up in that, when I turned 8 years old, then my parents had opened up their own school, and which really just kind of gave me the go-ahead to really immerse myself in this field, in this realm. And as you know, I was 8 years old, and I was trying to take souls and challenging different students to...
God, I still love it today. Beautiful. It's beautiful.
To if I could intubate faster than them. And I was doing these high-level skills at that point, putting IOs in, putting IVs in, intubating mannequins. And I saw that as me being able to sit in a classroom and learning these skills so efficiently and easily that, okay, I'm 8 years old, I can go become an EMT. So I went to my parents and I said, I want to become an EMT. And they said, okay, when you turn 18, we'll put you through the class, we'll let you sit for the exam. And I said, no, that's way too far away. I want to become an EMT now. And
of course you did. Of course you did.
Could you picture it?
Actually, absolutely. 100%. Just, yes. I knew you for 10 days, and I 100% can see you doing this. I don't want to wait. I want to do it now.
So I didn't believe them when they told me no. And I went on our family computer, and I was fact-checking them. So I Googled it. And turns out they were right. But I wasn't going to go to them and admit that. So I needed to find a solution what I could actually go and bring them with. So I found out that there's no minimum age requirement to become certified in CPR. And I knew in that moment that this was something I could do, and this was the start of my future. So I brought it to my parents, and I said, this is something I want to do. I want to become certified in CPR. I want my own CPR card. They said, okay, fine. We'll put you through the class, but you're going to have to demonstrate your skills just like everybody else. And my dad and I had gone into the school, and I was demonstrating my skills for him, and I looked over at him, and I saw him taking pictures of me. And up until that point, he had always been taking pictures of me on the soccer field, the lacrosse field, and anywhere where he was really proud of me. So I said, okay, that's my dad being proud of me, whatever. Nice. Turns out, a few years later, I actually realized that it wasn't just about him being a proud dad. I'm sure that was a part of it, but it was really him getting some proof that I actually knew what I was doing and that I earned my own CPR card. Because the day after I got it, I went into class and I was bragging to everybody that I was CPR certified. And
well, can you imagine that? Like they audit, now they're going to come and audit me because you gave your daughter, an 8-year-old kid, a CPR card, you just give it to her? Did she really earn it? Like, what does that look like? So we made her take the online course so that she could have that, the certificate, and then we made her do the skills. And I still have the pictures of her doing CPR inside the lab.
That's
So
awesome.
I think
love
that
it.
was a really pivotal point in my life for me to know that I could do this, that I wasn't just a product of my environment, that I was now going out into the world and making sure that I was going to be the person to step forward.
Yeah.
And when I turned 18, I did go through the EMT course. I am now a nationally registered EMT, and through that, I began working in the emergency room in a level 1 trauma center in Boston.
Which one?
And Beth Israel.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And
for
so
you.
I spent
Which is a great story in her book of how she got there, by the way.
All right.
yes, so I spent 3 years there, and I love to say that I learned more in those 3 years than I ever did in the 12, 16 years being in the classroom.
Yeah.
And I gained so much experience, and I'm so grateful for my time there, which really just launched me into this book. And I was in college at the time. I was working in the ER, so I was studying psychology and writing, and I had oral presentations that my professors would invite our friends and families in. So I always was the person to bring the most people out of everybody in the class. Half of the classroom would be filled with my friends and my parents,
Of course.
which I'm
You notice
I'm
how
so
I
lucky
didn't get an
for.
invitation to that? I'm gonna throw this out, Kiera. I'm just playing. Because I would have been there for you. All right,
I know.
it would've been
I
one
know you
more,
would've.
Okay.
I don't know if we would be able to fit more people in there, but
I love it.
I just always had so much support in every sense of everything that I did. And my dad had come to me and he said, I want to write this book with you. And he presented the idea of what the book was about to be. And I said, no, that's not my journey. I don't think so. Because my entire life, I had seen myself getting out of college and either going back to school to further my education and to get more clinical experience, or placing myself into a clinical setting, which I was already in. And so when he came to me and he said that, I originally turned him down 5 times, mind you. He kept coming back and asking me.
Persistent. Way
Very
to go,
persistent.
Dad.
Well, I need her help too. I mean, I had written academically for years,
Yeah.
studies, papers with our fellowship, all this
But
other
she's
stuff,
in
chapters.
school.
Exactly. And I saw how powerful of a writer, descriptive writer that she was. And I knew I needed help. And actually the idea came to me because I was listening to a podcast from Mel Robbins.
Oh, yeah.
And Mel's latest book, The Let Them Theory, she wrote with her daughter. And so she started to tell the story about how, her daughter had done a bunch of research and her daughter had helped her with this book. And I said, that would be genius. I need to call Kiera. I need to do this. I need to do this with her. And I said that would be amazing. And I need her help. And so that's how that started.
So after the 5th time, you
After
said
the
yes.
5th time, yes. I really had changed my mind because my mindset going into this was in the sense that I wanted to go out into the world and save lives. Since I was 8 years old, it was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And by doing this, my writing up until that point had always been for me. So I really couldn't fathom the fact that my writing could be for other people and it could save other people's lives. And so going into this, I on the 5th time he asked me, he said, please just go back, just sit with it. You don't have to make a decision now. And I said, okay. So I went back to my dorm room and I was really sitting with the idea of it, and something changed within me in the sense that I realized that this is going to save lives, that this book, that my writing could have a direct impact on people and what they go out into the world to do. And so I went back to him and I said, okay, I'll write the book, but I'm going to be co-author of this, and I'm going to have my own input, and you're going to have to listen to me. And which I'm sure you
Sounds
could
like my
probably
daughters already.
understand.
Yeah.
And
great.
so we started this journey a year ago, and it's been great ever since.
That's awesome.
Yes.
You said you were working in the ER. How long were you working in the ER? And are you still working in the ER?
So I just left the ER a few months ago
Right on.
because I really want to get this message out. And I think that it's so important that I give my full undivided attention to this project, because we have just been booking so many different outlets and media things. And I can't turn down opportunities around this project
For sure.
for that. I do miss my patient experience. I miss my patients. I miss being in the ER, but I know that this is where I'm supposed to be right now.
Right on. I love it.
And it was there's no way that we were, because what was happening was like my schedule was buttoned up against her schedule and buttoned up against, our publicist who's booking this or booking that. And we got a TV interview or a radio interview. And I was like, oh, Kiera, this is hard.
And as much as I loved it, it was definitely not something that I could make a living off of. So, which I'm sure that we'll get into
common
more.
Common theme.
Yes.
All right, so I want to bring it back to something that I love to ask all of my guests, and that is the very first rescue, or in your case, like a patient that stands out to you. So, Brad, like, what was yours? Do you remember your very first?
Like it was yesterday.
God, that's
Yeah.
my favorite part.
Yeah. So it was my absolute very first call. And so, I described earlier that I went to this meeting. They gave me, turnout gear and basically slapped me on the butt and said, okay, let's go, here's a radio. And when the tones go off, this is what it sounds like. And you get in your car and you drive to the scene. And so my brother and I were outside and we were trying to fix his car. I was just holding the flashlight for him. And we could hear this car, like a standard transmission and winding up like, whir, whir, and this guy, you could hear him just go flying by our street. And a couple of minutes later, all the lights went out.
Like on the block.
Yeah. All the lights go out, right? And we're outside, we look back and we can see the house is dark, and now I get the flashlight. And I'm wearing my radio. And the tones go off. For a car accident that's about a half a mile away. And so the tones go off, and I have really had no training at this point, like very little training. And so I get up. My brother Michael's like, I'm coming with you. I'm like, oh, fine. And he goes, well, neither are you. I was like, well, yes, I am. But so
you had your radio. So
I'm my radio. I'm my gear too.
Yeah.
So I remember like we jump in the car because it came over as an accident at this intersection. And it's really at the end of, it's a T. So, the main road, I lived off a road here. This is a main road. And at the main road ends, and it intersects. And then at the end of that, it's a telephone pole and woods. So, we jump into my car and I drive to the scene. And we get there. And I remember getting out and I'm putting on my gear, right? It was in my trunk. I open the trunk and I can just hear this kid screaming. And so I put my boots on, I go over there, and I get there, and there's these bystanders that are trying to help, like people from the area, and they're rocking this car back and forth because it's on its side, and they're taking out the telephone pole, so now all the lines are down, and it had gone into through the trees, and the car was up on its side, resting up against the tree, and so he was trapped, on the driver's side. Remember, these cars back in the 80s were tanks, right?
Yeah.
Like they were steel.
Super heavy.
Yeah. So, everybody's like in there trying to roll this car over, and this kid is just screaming his head off. And finally, they roll the car over, and he stopped screaming. And now I felt really super helpless because I'm the only one there in turnout gear. Everyone's looking to me like this young 16-year-old firefighter who has no real training yet, very little. And they're like expecting me to do something, and finally the truck shows up, the engine shows up, and it's now me and the paid firefighter that's there, and he's now like giving me directions, get the jaws out, right? So, because the kid's still trapped in the car, and so and I remember like I'm looking inside and I had a flashlight on my helmet, at that time, and I could see him, and he looked pasty white, like white like that paper. And he wasn't moving, and his eyes were open, and I didn't realize like he was in arrest at that point.
Yeah,
because I'd never seen that, never experienced it, never seen a dead body, I'd never seen anyone who's not breathing. So we get the jaws out, and those were the heavy 2-person jaws at the time.
Yeah, two
Like the
people on
Hirsch-
both sides.
Yeah, the
Bringing in the
Hirsch
crunch.
I didn't even really know what I was doing, but the other firefighters giving me direction on just trying to help him because he couldn't physically do it by himself. So as we're working to try to pop the door, And then finally the ambulance shows up, and like one of the EMTs crawls in the other side, and I can hear the EMT yelling, he doesn't have a pulse. And, everything, right? You hear the jaws, and the jaws at the time, they were the 2-cycle engine. So they were like, yeah, 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 yeah. As opposed to now, it's just like, right?
That's really good. Those are good sound effects.
Yeah.
I
But
like
if you go Google it, you'll see what I'm talking about, because it's so imprinted in my mind, that very, very first call. But I was, you think about it, right? Like the car's on its 4 wheels now, and the other firefighter and I are trying to pop the door, and so we're right there, and the kid is right. He's actually at this point now. He's leaning over the other side, and I could see blood from his face. And finally, we pop that door, we free him, we get him out, and so I'm helping the 2 EMTs, and there was no medics at the time. The 2 EMTs were dragging him out, right? And this is the mid '80s. We weren't wearing gloves. I was wearing fire gloves.
Yeah.
So I'm like dragging him out, and there's blood all over him, and I look down, and he had all this like glass shroud in his face, and I look down, and I recognize him. Holy shit! As a kid that I went to high school with. So he had been out with friends drinking, and just never stopped. Didn't even slow down, and went right through a telephone pole, right into the trees. And
This is why we have tissues.
well, it is emotional, right? Like here, all of a sudden, my very first call that I ever go on, and it's someone I know. Which really became kind of, especially in small towns, I mean, that really becomes a kind of a standard. Like you start to see, later on, you start to see people that you start to see their family members. I've done like countless times on CPR on friends' mother or father or people I knew, right? And so in those small towns, it was like that. It doesn't happen every day, but it happens when you know people throughout the town. And so I remember just dragging him out, and we put him on the stretcher, and I'm helping put him in the ambulance. And I remember when the ambulance like drove away, and I'm just standing there, and I didn't know how to deal with that. No one, like, especially back then in the '80s, you just sucked it up.
Yeah.
And like we didn't go back to the firehouse and talk about that, and try to unpack that of like, here I am, a 16-year-old kid. I saw a dead body.
Yeah.
And that was a kid I knew from high school. Right. And so I remember like going home, and the next day, it was funny because my brother and I are driving back, and he's like, dude, that was messed up. Did you hear him screaming? I'm like, I heard him screaming, like, shut up, because he didn't actually get to see any of that. He just saw from the distance.
Yeah.
He didn't really see up close and personal of here's this kid that we just dragged out. And, I remember his, the blood in his hair and the whole 9 yards. And then for years, when and it wasn't like post-traumatic stress that just stuck in me, but every time I drove by that intersection, I could still see that kid. Right. I bet and that's what happens. Like from the emotional side, I've never really had, I'm sure I have some level of post-traumatic stress, but never debilitating. Like, sometimes I think I'm a cold, heartless son of a gun. But
Me too.
But I have a theory behind that too, because you build resiliency over time.
Oh, for sure.
But here, this, I didn't know how to deal with that, and my dad was a force recon Marine. He had lost friends in battle, and so the next day, having a conversation with my dad, and he helped me kind of get through it emotionally. And, one of the things he said to me, and I never forgot it, and I teach it today, he had said to me is that you didn't cause that.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And he said, even when he's lost friends in battle, it's like, yeah, he goes, I didn't shoot him. I didn't cause that. We're there doing our job, and they're trying to kill us. We're trying to kill them. He's like, but I didn't actually cause that. And so, yeah, it's emotional. Yes, that guy, I knew that guy. We had spent time together. But, one of the ways that and even now, I say it to all of our paramedic students. I say, it's not your fault. It's just your problem.
Right. Oh, totally. Yeah.
So you didn't cause any of those bad things. And that began that journey of me rationalizing how I would deal with stress and post traumatic, and really, and seeing some of what the worst of mankind can do to each other over the years.
Oh yeah.
And as you know, I mean, and your listeners will know, if you've been in this field for any length of time, you're going to have those stories. And I have many of them where some of them we made an incredible difference in people's lives, and others we could not change the outcome.
Right.
And I think it's okay and at some point, where, and even now, like my role as an incident commander, or merely as I go to calls, I go back to this one call where we had this child that had been hit by a truck, and and when we show up, it was kind of chaos. And anyway, our paramedics get the patient in the back of the ambulance, and she was only like 2 years old, and I remember getting in the back, and I was so proud of the team because they were calm. There was no chaos back there. But I also knew that two of the members that were back there also had kids that were close to that age.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I remember I was sitting down, and this child's looking up at me, and the blue eyes, and I'm like trying to shut the eyes, like, cause everybody's looking where, we're working on this child. And, I remember saying to everybody in the back of that ambulance is that, one, none of you caused any of this today, and the outcome has been decided prior to our arrival. We're not going to change what we're doing.
Right.
We're not going to change the outcome. I mean, trauma dead is dead.
Yeah.
99.999% of trauma. I mean, now we have blood products we're giving in the field. Things are changing, right? But it's like back then, we weren't going to change that. You have an asystolic traumatic arrest where a child got run over by a dual wheel box truck. We were not changing the outcome.
No.
And what I was trying to do is lessen the impact of the emotional side of what was going on that day.
Yeah.
And like I said, I couldn't have been more proud. And then even after that, that still messed up a couple of my paramedics.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they had children that were that age.
Yeah.
And so we go back to that, like, first rescue. It had a really negative outcome, right? Like, the person died. I mean, our whole goal is of rescue is to save somebody. And it wasn't until, I was about a couple of years later where I had a real win, right? Another car accident, where, there was a person out on the highway, person trapped inside the vehicle. I'm crawling inside the vehicle, trying to provide care. Person had, before we had commercialized tourniquets, right? This person's bleeding out. And I remember I'm just thinking, like, if I don't stop that bleeding, this patient's dying, like, hey, right now in 2 minutes. And it's like all I had was my personal rope for turnout gear.
Yeah.
And I was a Boy Scout, right?
Nice.
And I mean, I was also, it was like, I think I hadn't gone to EMT school yet. And so I remember, like, my first aid training as a Boy Scout, of making tourniquets. Remember how we took, like, anything, and you get a stick, you get a windlass, and you wind the thing. And
oh my God, I can't believe I remember.
Yeah, I mean, this patient, and literally, the car's upside down. I crawl inside, and the patient's bleeding pretty significantly. And I was there incredibly quick, right? Because I was coming down Fish Road, which is one of the roads pretty close to the highway, and the tones went off. So I literally, within seconds, jumped. I mean, the highway is right there, and it was on the way going to Newport. And this person had rolled over their vehicle, almost on the on ramp of the off ramp, going to the next exit. So I was
smile.
If you're less than a mile, right? So the tones go off because somebody called. Tones go off, and I'm less than a mile, half a mile to the exit. So I pull my car over. I'm there by myself, right? I pull in my turn. When I say turnout gear, I had roller boots, right? And I had gone. I remember taking talking to somebody about always having a piece of rope, and I had a piece of rope in my turnout pocket. I'm in the car, and the person, their arm had been and nearly almost severed off, like lower, and so I took my personal rope out, and I'm yelling outside to like a bystander. There's somebody else out there, right? I could see their feet.
Yeah.
And, the car literally is like upside down. And I'm yelling for them to get me a stick. Because all I could think about was, as a Boy Scout, I learned that, and I need to stop the bleeding.
Yeah. I need a stick. Go find me a stick.
Right. And the guy comes back.
highway.
The guy comes back with like this thing like this. Literally, like he brings me this thing like this. And
Meter
I'm
line,
yelling. Yeah, it's like
yard,
this
yard.
thick. I'm
What
yelling,
the hell?
break the stick. I need it to be about 6 inches. And I could see, only thing I could see is the guy's got the stick on the ground and he's trying to smash it with his foot. So then he gives me a piece like this big. I'm like, all right, that's got to work. So I wrapped a rope around it, made a tourniquet, and that guy lived.
No shit.
And
Dang, that's
and
awesome.
so when we eventually because I still remember, I had this and it was like the braided rope.
Yeah.
That's all I had. I didn't have like a paracord, or I didn't have any of the high technology rope. I had literally a braided rope. So I used the braided rope, used the stick, did this, windlass. And because I remember I'm thinking, okay, so I ended up wrapping the rest of the rope around the windlass to try to make sure that it didn't unwind. And then the bleeding stopped. And the person was, starting to become unresponsive, right? He's lost a bunch of blood. And when everybody else came, we dragged that guy out, and I used to see him around town. He had a big, huge, massive scar on his arm, but they saved his arm, and the guy lived. So that
Awesome.
that led me to knowing that, one, I could make a difference in someone's life.
Yeah.
Because I had this really negative experience on my very, very first call, and it literally took a while to get that next positive experience. And I'd been to tons of other calls in the middle of that, including like a number of dead bodies.
Yeah.
And so that was a big win for me.
So I got to give you credit. Actually, I'm going to give you a lot of credit, because there's a lot of people that I've talked to that have that really hard call and they quit because they're like, this is not what I signed up for. Like, I signed up to save people. I signed up to go help people, not watch people die in front of me, not do this. So mad props to you for sticking to that through. And I'll throw your dad in there too, because what a great piece of advice to move on. So
yeah, because
awesome.
because he had to deal with that. How else do you deal with it?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, listen, I credit my dad for so many things, both from a leadership standpoint, right? He taught into me. I had an amazing dad, right? I mean, Kiera, this is her grandfather, right? And he was just an awesome, awesome guy. And his own stories in this book.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That is an incredibly powerful story.
Yeah.
Because he suffered an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest.
Oh, wow. Oh.
In the parking lot after a dance recital in Taunton, Massachusetts. And 2 bystanders came out, started CPR right away. Fire EMS showed up.
Oh,
multiple defibrillations, multiple rounds of medication. One of our own graduates was there at his cardiac arrest.
From this school?
Yes.
What?
Yeah. It's an amazing story.
That's awesome.
It's an amazing story.
Oh, that's cool.
And then my dad lived. Yeah.
Holy cow. That's epic. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, cool.
And then, we got more time with my dad.
That's awesome.
And I always, I even say it in the book. I talk about, I lost my mom suddenly. She had COPD. We knew she would, but we didn't know she was going to die that day. Nothing led up to us, hey, mom's going to die this day.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So we lost my mom suddenly. And so I never really got to say goodbye.
Yeah, right.
So when we think about a save, and we've heard earlier about John and actually we didn't even talk about John Perino, but we talked about Frank and the long arc of time of Frank, being there for his family. But what about the time to say goodbye?
Right. Yeah.
So it really was, we got 6 more months with my dad.
That's awesome.
But he was neurologically attacked. I was actually here teaching students, and my dad and I had such a special relationship, and we would tease each other all the time. The night before this happened, I was calling him because he was going to a dance recital for my niece. And Kiera used to dance. Bridget, my older daughter, would dance, and all his granddaughters would dance. And my father hated dance recitals, but he loved his granddaughters, and he would always go to support them, right? No matter what. And he would always fall asleep. Because if you know, you know. And I know this in the book. Literally, like, there would be 3 hours, 4 hours of a dance recital, and your kid gets up there for 5 minutes. Right? You have daughters. Did you ever do this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm
Tell
talking
me
about.
when's the only time you can actually catch a nap? During a recital?
Yeah. So
finally I can take a nap.
my father would fall asleep, and I would wake him up, right, when they were coming on. And so the funny part is so I called him the night before, and I was teasing him. So I figured this day that it happened, I was here teaching, I was leaving, and I was calling him to tease him, to ask him, like, hey, did you fall asleep? Did Paul, my brother-in-law, have to wake you up? And Paul was going to break his stones no matter what, right? They had a great relationship. So I was leaving him a message, and my sister was trying to call me
At the same time?
at the same exact time to tell me that they're doing CPR on Dad in the parking lot.
Oh, I just got chills.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So I leave him a message, like breaking his balls about, hey, how did the dance recital go? I can't wait to hear about it. Da, 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 da. And my sister's calling me. It goes to voicemail. So she calls my wife. And so Kim calls me, and immediately I can hear in her voice. And she says, Shannon just called. They're doing CPR on Dad in the parking lot at the middle school. He collapsed. And so I was like, I was already, now I'm in my car driving home, and I said, all right, I'll come pick you up. Because we all know that, right? This is an 80-year-old guy who's had a bunch of comorbidities, tough Marine, but he's 80.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is it, right? You're never going to get to see him.
Every single person in the family was thinking this too.
Yeah. Well, we're a healthcare family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No.
My wife's a nurse
You get
practitioner.
between the
My
lines,
wow's a
like,
nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anybody listening
Ability of it.
is less than 1%.
Yeah, we know.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we get to the hospital. So we actually, and I couldn't understand why they were taking him to this hospital in particular, because it wasn't the closest.
Yeah.
But my sister called me and said, hey, they're going to Good Samaritan. And I was like, that seems odd. But you just never know. Like, a local hospital could be at diversion. They could be, who knows, right? Some internal emergency. I don't know. So I pick up Cam and Bridget, my older daughter, and we drive up to the hospital, and we get there, and the ambulance is in the area. And so I said to Cam, like, I'm going to go to the ambulance ER entrance. Now, this is an emergency room that I've probably had thousands of patients through, right? I mean, it's our local service area.
Yep.
So I get to the back doors, and I'm waiting. I go inside. I talk to the triage nurse or the charge nurse, and I said, "Hey, is the ambulance coming in with a cardiac arrest?" She's like, "Yeah, they're about 5 minutes out." I was like, "Okay." So I go back out, and I didn't really tell her it was my dad, right? But she kind of assumed, and she knows me, and she didn't give me any other information. So the ambulance pulls in. Brian Anderson, who actually now works here as an educator, but Brian knew me. Brian gets out of the back of the truck, and he looks over, and he sees me standing there, and he looks back in the ambulance, and he says, "Mr. Newbury, your son Brad's here."
Oh my God.
Jason, I literally was like, I step over, I'm like, what? I look inside the back of the ambulance. What am I expecting? CPR,
Yeah.
right? Go into the trauma room, go into the resuscitation room, and the doc's gonna, give it a college try for a few minutes, and then they're gonna say, sorry, it was nothing we could do, right? Like, this was my expectation. So would be yours. And they literally drag him out of the back of the ambulance, and he looks up and he goes, "Hi, Brad." I was like, holy crap, Dad. I couldn't.
He had a cigar in his mouth, man.
He didn't never smoke. But my dad was my dad was a long distance runner, but he was a tough Marine, right? So I was like, holy smokes, Dad. And he's like, and he had a big whack on his head. He fell backwards down a few stairs and whacked his skull.
Ouch.
And so we go into the emergency room, and then they quickly assessed him, took some vitals, and then they brought him into CAT scan because he was also taking Xarelto. So there's not a blood thinner.
Yeah.
And they're like, we need to scan his head, make sure he's okay.
Yeah.
And he was fine, right? So they bring him in. They bring him into the scanner, and I was standing. I was like, I can't believe this. And then it hit me like, oh, I got to go tell Bridget. I got to go tell Kim and Bridget, because if you're in the waiting room, they think Dad's dead in the back.
Yeah.
I think that's the point that I had arrived.
Yeah. So I come out, I get the big shitty grin on my face.
And we're all, EMS professionals. We're all just a little.
I was going to touch on that.
Just a little bit. So all of us are like, oh, great, he's making a joke about this. Like,
which would not surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise any of us either.
So I come out, and Bridget looks at me. She goes, "Why are you laughing?" I cannot believe this. He's back there talking to me. They're like, what? Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Insane.
That is epic.
And I'm going to leave it for the because I can't tell the rest of the story.
No, don't.
Fine.
Yeah.
But the rest of the story of what came after is the most amazing part. Yeah, right? Amazing part.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. You know, and that was that two different experiences of losing my mom suddenly and then having more time with my dad.
Yeah.
So what those bystanders did by coming out and doing CPR and bridging the gap between fire and EMS showing up, you know, giving him that opportunity. And then literally when they came and they defibrillated him a couple times and give him some reds, they drill him with an IO, which is a funny story. The whole thing. And then after, I'm going to leave a cliffhanger here. I allowed Kiera to become a minister for one day. And we're going to leave it there.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we just went from your very first rescue to a whole bunch more, and I appreciate all of that because I can't emphasize enough. I live vicariously through everybody that comes on this podcast, and I love these stories so much because I envision it. I'm there, like I'm on scene, and it's amazing. But thank you. To your point, Kiera, dark humor. There is. Like, I've made some pretty rough jokes and I've said some pretty crazy stuff on this podcast. And let me tell you, like, if you don't get it, if you don't understand it, this is not a podcast to listen to. But with what we deal with and we see as emergency responders and like the average person, I will throw my wife in there. I love her to death. She's a school teacher. I do not want to be a school teacher. I don't want to deal with those kids. I've walked into her classroom. I'm like, yeah, get them out. But on the flip side of it, she has no business doing what we do. And there are times she said to me, do you even have a heart? I'm like, well.
And that's something that I love to talk about, especially with this book, is because this book has so many emotions, and you've seen so many emotions already in here. Emotions are tied so heavily to memory. And for many people who are outsiders looking into the EMS world, they can tell us or talk about us and stereotype us in the sense that we don't have a heart, we cope with dark humor and
alcohol.
Exactly, and it's true. These things are true, and they can kind of take all of these things and compile them to the sense that we aren't empathetic, and we lose our empathy throughout being in this profession. And it's something that I love to mention because I love to challenge that idea with the sense that we are the most empathetic people, and we just keep getting more empathy as we go on. We are not people who wake up every day, go do this job that's tolling on our bodies, very mentally tolling. We don't get paid a lot to do it, and yet we still show up every single day. And the only thing that drives that is empathy, is the fact that we love our patients, and that we want to help people so much that we're willing to risk our health with the long night shifts, our physical health, carrying people down the stairs. How many people get hurt on this job?
Oh yeah,
so many.
And Jason and I have risked our lives for sure.
Absolutely.
Multiple, many times over.
For the greater good.
right. Yeah. Well, and I call it the SAR bug. You catch the search and rescue bug, and that's again from my world. Is you get that one or two rescues, you're like, that was amazing, and now you want that again and again and again. It's that addiction, but it comes with all the other stuff, which is
absolutely. And we are, in a sense, and I don't mean this in a horrible way, we're crazy people. We love the adrenaline rush.
One of my favorite sayings is, we don't wish bad things on people. We just want to be there when they happen.
exactly. I don't want anybody to get hurt, but when it happens, call me. I want to go. I want to be there.
Yes. I was talking to some of the girls who work in administration here, and I was saying how this was one of my first 4th of Julys that I got to enjoy because I always work 4th of July. And they had been asking me a few questions, and I said, well, I would always pick up 4th of July because I thought that was the best people were coming in during that. I would always,
Fingers
I
blown
wouldn't
off,
hope.
arm
Exactly.
up,
I said I was just
burned
looking
face.
for somebody to have a mistake with a firework and not have a hand anymore. And they looked at me like I was a
I
psychopath.
can't believe it. We were laughing at it. That's hilarious and terrible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for anybody that has a firework incident, but
That's
I mean, how many
horrible.
times did you're waiting? You're like, I hope a call comes in, right?
Yeah.
It's like us. Like we haven't had a fire in a while. You're like,
come on, Thanksgiving,
today, yeah.
drop that turkey in, let's go.
But I mean, in a sense too, we work holidays. We miss out on so many parties, our family gatherings, and if we can find a little hope in that, in the sense that we get to have some call that we make a big impact on, but it's something that we can use to learn for ourselves, then I don't see anything wrong with that.
Nope. Well, we do all this training. We go through all the schooling. You want to put your training to practice. And as much as it sucks to say somebody has to get hurt in order for us to put our training to practice, somebody can also live because of what we've trained and practiced.
Yes, and and again, see, this is the stuff that people can see and hear from us, and they say they don't care about the person. But we do. We care the most about that person because we want to be there to help. We want to fix that problem. And when we can't fix a problem, we risk our mental health. So that's my soapbox. I'll step down off of it.
No, I love it.
I also think you're on something too, Kiera, because I think that individuals, they also want us to be the ones. Meaning that, you have some really great experiences in SAR, and I have all these great experiences in the fire service and as a paramedic. Like, if you're going to have somebody at the intersection of life and death in the moment, who do you want? Like, who do you want? You want that person who has the knowledge, skill, ability, and willingness to do whatever it takes, right? Because and when we say whatever it takes, meaning risking your life to do that. And I'm sure you have close calls. I know I have a number of close calls. And it's not just, and I think there's, you have a crew and a helo, but you're still that guy dangling on the wire by yourself, right? And most of the time in the fire service, you're there with other team members too. Like, you're relying on those pilots and that crew chief or whatever they call them to ensure that everything else is going to be okay. And because you said you would go, and because they're there to help in case And there have been rescue swimmers lost, right, and killed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, we lost our first one just recently. The rest of them were in training flights, but yeah.
And so, like, that happens in the fire service, in particularly in building fires, and of course there's a whole health side of it too, but there are catastrophic, unforeseeable things, right? One of the mottos of the fire service and many other first response is that everybody goes home.
Yes.
And I remember
I remember that actually being a newer model for the Coast Guard. Coast Guard. Sorry, I'm taking over for a second.
No, that's okay.
It was you have to go out, you don't have to come back. That was like back in the day, right? And then in my generation, it was like, no, you should go out, you have to come home. And that was like, oh yeah. So they changed that mentality. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
But I would also say to that mentality is that, you raise your right hand and so die. And we swore to do our duty.
Yeah.
Right. And that duty might end our life. And if, I'm not saying, there's been a push to put me first as opposed to putting the patient first and putting the victim first. Right. And I'm not saying I have in any way, shape or form that I have this like suicidal thing. Right.
No.
However, that when we raise our right hand, we said we would do our duty, we would go.
Yeah.
And many times we go, and not just for the victim, but for the people that say they will go with us.
Right.
And particularly, when I'm crawling in a house fire and I have a team of people and I'm leading that team down a hallway and into one of the most harsh environments that you can imagine, right? Between smoke and heat and gas. And I also know that the building itself is also our enemy too, because gravity's trying to pull it to the ground every time. So even despite some maybe catastrophic things that are unpredictable, you could still lose your life.
Right.
But we still go.
Yeah.
And there's a difference, I think, in that mindset of, who do you want? Do you want that person that's like, I'm not going to risk my life. I'm not going to go make the push. Because I'll tell you right now, I have pictures, I have times in my career where, that back bedroom on the second floor where the rest of the house is nearly burned out has livable space, right? You open the door, and I can show you a picture. You open the door, and despite that everything else is burned out, there's barely any soot stains or any smoke stains inside that room because the door was shut. Because listen, if you today in today's environment, if you're listening to say, listen to anything, you should be sleeping with your door shut. In our house, we all sleep with our door shut. It never was that way. We always slept with our doors open. Everybody had their doors open. One day the kids, no, we shut all the doors. Why? Because fire is moving so quickly in today's environment. And I've seen I've seen the result of that and how quickly. I mean, if your smoke detector goes off and you're not moving in today's environment, you might not get out, let alone call a fire department, right? But if you have that door shut and, we can make a rescue, whether we come up over a ladder or we get them into the back room or whatever it is, that's going to buy you time. I was involved in last year, we had an apartment complex fire and I was in command. And as soon as we're pulling up, it's like 1:30 in the morning. And, we have fire out 3 windows on the top floor. And the whole place is full of people because this is an apartment complex that we go to every day, like the area we go to every single day for alarms, food on the stove, somebody cooking, whatever it is, somebody smoking in the basement. We're there every day. Nobody was leaving. I have helmet cam footage of this, by the way, right? And we show up and there's a guy trapped on a balcony. The public hallway is full of heat and smoke because the door was open to the apartment. That's my Boston accent.
Nice.
And
That was good.
but here we are. We got flies blowing out the windows, and literally I got cops running around, banging on doors, trying to get people to leave. I got one guy on the balcony. We have other people still in the building that we don't even know where they are, and we have to set some priorities. Well, one, we got to get that guy off the balcony, right? So a rookie firefighter, fairly not rookie, but a very young firefighter. He's grabbing a ladder. He's rescuing that guy off the balcony, and we have to fight the fire. And literally, we have all these different priorities going on. I'm the incident commander, and I have to make all these different decisions that if I don't send people into harm's way, other people will die. Right. So I think those decisions, when you think about who should we send, who should go, those lay people who didn't raise their right hand, don't understand the true oath that we took to save other people. And then all of a sudden, we find ourselves in these situations like you're dangling off a helicopter in rough seas, trying to pick somebody off of a boat or rescue them out of the ocean. I mean, that is a whole different world, right? And lay people cannot relate to that.
No.
And I think, too, if I was stranded in the middle of the ocean and you came down from a helicopter and now you look at me and you're like, I don't know.
I can teach you an intubation.
No, but if as a provider,
oh no, I'm gonna let that simmer for a little bit. You just got roasted by your dad. That's awesome. Okay, keep going.
If you as a provider were now saying, I don't feel comfortable taking you, then I don't feel comfortable either. But if you come down with your goofy self and very confident in the sense that, all right, let's go, get here, come on, and now I'm dangling from the helicopter with you, I'd feel way more confident with that than if you were terrified. So we need these experiences, and that's a big part because you don't want somebody who's not trained and not confident in saving you to come save you.
Yep. That's why training is so hard. And if everybody could do it, they would, but not everybody can do it. So
everybody can't be a ET. They can't be a paramedic. They can't be a nurse. They can't be a firefighter. They're really hard jobs. That is so true. That is so true. My girls, I love them to death.
Can't say.
Terrible. You know how many years?
That's twice.
Listen. I think parents do their children. Some of these. Remember early days of American Idol?
Oh yeah.
Right. And Simon would be like, "That is terrible. What are you doing?" And so I remember Bridget first, Dad, I want to be on American Idol. I'd be like, honey, listen, you have a terrible, you can't hold a tune. It's just terrible. Kiera too is like, this is terrible. My wife has an amazing voice.
I love it.
And she's an introvert. She'd never go up there. But
it's so funny.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's there are things that I can't do that you can't do that she can't do, and everybody has strengths and weaknesses
For sure.
And I think when we start to think about some of the patients that we've had in times, and our book, you go back to the impact of some of these incredible stories. And I know that you've had, let's get the lead in. I know that you've had Bobby O'Donnell Jr. on your.
Oh yeah.
Bobby came on. He was episode 164 on this podcast. And yeah, his CPR story, his very first rescue when he was a teenager, like it is awesome. And that whole episode is fantastic. I love Bobby.
Yeah.
And that's actually a story in our book.
Yep, which it should be.
Right.
And your story in the book actually goes deeper than what we have on the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing story.
And one thing that I don't even know if you know. So I know I worked with his dad.
Yep.
And actually, when Bobby's dad retired, he was Captain O'Donnell Torres. He still is, right? He's still retired. And I took his captain's position.
Oh, I did not know that. Wow.
Well, something that you might not even also know is that, of course, because I watched Bobby grow up since he was a little kid.
Yeah.
So I watched. He used to come to the firehouse and hang around, ride with his dad in the command vehicle, and so I got to see Bobby grow up. And after that save, right? Of course, it's a phenomenal story, and including the timeline. Right here, John was underwater for more than 7 minutes, 10 minutes plus of CPR, 17 minutes. We got the timeline. 17 minutes of being in a rest with BLS CPR, the whole line out. So go listen to the podcast. It's an amazing story. And after that happened, to reiterate and celebrate what Bobby did that day, we gave him a scholarship to come to EMT school here.
Oh, that's why he came here. That's son of a gun.
So the why we gave him a scholarship to EMT school, the school, and where's Bobby today?
Oh, he's flight paramedic working with Boston.
Red Flight.
Yeah,
And he's saved countless lives since then.
And actually, I was actually texting him earlier while we were here. He's actually at Life Flight headquarters right now. I'm like, of course you are. Why wouldn't you be? But no, what a great story, a great guy. His dad has some great stories too.
I've been there with his dad. Story.
Yeah.
I would particularly, actually, his dad. I have a great picture of his dad. I mean, it's a great picture, but it's not a great picture, right? I don't know if you've ever seen it. His dad standing in the middle of chaos at the Boston Marathon bar.
So, you know what? Because you brought it up, he came to one of our lectures and told us that entire story, like PowerPoint presentation style.
Yeah, in
lecture.
paramedic school. Yeah, I brought him in to tell the story. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! At the Boston bombing, incredible.
While Bobby was running the race.
Yeah. Yes. Which is also on that podcast.
Oh, awesome!
Oh.
I'm glad you got that.
So Kiera, first rescue. So you've been in the ER for quite a while. What was your first time, like CPR, or someone's on their deathbed and you're bringing them back? Or because again, I know so in my world, and I'll actually say your dad's world too, like we're on scene pulling these people out of some very, I don't even know the word to use, precarious situations and places. But and I've been in the hospital as well, I've been in the ER where patients come in and give me your first one.
Yeah, we're kind of the semi last stop shop from you guys. But my first time ever doing CPR on a patient was one of my first weeks on training as an emergency room technician. And my trainer had looked at me and she said, okay, come here. We were listening to the radio. We had an elderly woman coming in. CPR was in progress. And my trainer looked at me and she said, have you ever done CPR on a real person before? I said, nope, but I have been CPR certified since I was 8 years old. And she said, great. Well, when she comes in, you're on the chest. So I'm 5'2", and they gave me a stool, thank God. They brought the stool over to the bed.
They've given me a stool too, by the way, and I'm like, I'm 6'4". I'm like straddling the stool. I'm sorry. Keep going. That's awesome. I love it.
So she came in with the Lucas device on, and once we took the Lucas device off, the emergency room I worked at was a teaching hospital. So there were so many people in this room, at least 3 residents, an attending, 3 nurses, and 2 technicians. So I get on the stool. They take the Lucas device off. They say, resume compressions now. I get on the chest, and immediately as I clasp my hands together and I start compressions, it was like everything in my head just went blank, in the sense that all of a sudden, Staying Alive started playing, and it was muscle memory at that point. and my heart's racing because this is the first time I'm doing this on a real person. First time it really matters. And I just keep going, listening to Staying Alive, and all I could think is, I hope I'm doing this right. Even though I've been trained in this for now 12 years, I'm still questioning myself. And there's so many people in the room that I can't even fathom the embarrassment that could happen if I'm not doing this right. So we get through the 2 minutes, and we check the pulse. And she had a pulse back. And so the entire room kind of exhaled. The doctors were still trying to intubate her. The nurses were pushing meds. And I stepped off the stool, dragged the stool out with me. And my trainer looked at me and said, "That was awesome. Great job." And in that moment, that really didn't mean anything to me. It did, because I was grateful she said it. But it didn't really have an impact. I thought that she would just say that no matter what. And it was until the attending came out and looked at me and said that those were great compressions, great work. So after that, I'm like, oh, thank God. That would be really bad if the attending came out and said, well, you should go back and practice some more. And after that, everybody knows the adrenaline crash that happens. And I'm still shaking. I'm still a little shaky. And I am now, everybody knows that CPR is a very physical skill. I'm sweating. I'm dripping sweat. And I was reflecting on that a little later, and I was still experiencing just some emotionality around it. Even though I had mentally been preparing for this for so long, it was still affecting me. And I kind of was getting a little mad at myself because why am I getting so emotional over this thing that I have been preparing over half my life for? And I started to really grasp what had happened, and I got through it. But what I just kept reflecting on is, how could people do this and not have the training or the preparation that I did? How could somebody who's on the street, who maybe took a CPR class in high school, they're 30 years old now, they have no refresher course, and they immediately hop on a chest? How can they cope with that after? And so I really sat with it, and I commend everybody who steps forward and tries to do that, because it wasn't difficult for me to step forward. I had encouragement.
And training, education, and all the experiences you had in school.
Exactly.
Right? That
Exactly.
did make a difference and give you some level of confidence.
Yes. And I before that, I was confident. And it wasn't until I was immediately on the chest. And what I didn't expect, I knew that her ribs would break and that it would turn to something that wasn't what it was before.
Right.
But it was still really crazy to me to now then experience her ribs just crush and become mush. And that was something that was just really shocking to me. But I knew that meant I was doing good CPR. So going back to the bystander who just jumps on the chest and hasn't had the preparation that I did, I can relate to the sense that they may think they're doing something wrong.
Right. By
They may
pushing, all of
think
a
that-
sudden you hear a crack and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I just do?
Exactly.
Well, and the body resists that too, right?
Yeah.
The rib cage is designed to protect all right.
Yeah.
So like that, the body resists. You feel that pressure.
Absolutely. It was something that was so insightful for me.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky that it was semi-recently that I still have that vivid memory of it. And I can go on and explain my experience and try and help others who may jump on the chest and not have that preparation, so that they know that they're doing a great job. They're not hurting the person.
So have you gone on to be an instructor of CPR?
I haven't instructed CPR officially,
Ah, okay. All right.
but I would consider myself a CPR advocate.
Right on. I love it.
And
Goals, hashtag goals. I got
hashtag
you.
goals.
I got you.
But I think that vivid memory you have now, Kiera, if we ask you in 20 years from now, you'll be able to unpack it just like you just did.
Oh, for sure.
That is not going to go away.
Oh, I remember my first rescue. Like, it was yesterday. Like, and that was.
Yeah.
Shoot,
Well, and see here,
Yeah.
I think this is really good for your audience. I think many people don't understand what an experience is.
Right.
Right? Experiences, as Kiera pointed out earlier, are visceral. They're memories, and they go. And to me, when you have to have reflection, and I'll give you a great example of this. Right? So, Joey, one of the kids in my job, brand new rookie, and I have this on video. Right? First house fire that he's ever going to go into. And real, like, he's had training and everything else. We get a report of a fire in a private dwelling with a reported 14-year-old girl trapped in a bedroom. It's a super hot day. And from a physiology standpoint, I'll say also, I was wearing a glucose monitor, which is really interesting, right?
You were wearing it.
I was.
Oh, interesting.
And I was the incident command.
Okay.
And so we're on the front lawn. Actually, they're attempting to ventilate and enter a room from the outside. So the ladder's up to the window, and the guys are breaking the window. Actually, one of our guys got cut pretty bad. And so they're attempting to go in, make the rescue. Joey's on the first in hose line. And so he is jacked, right? Think about this. This is the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is his first time ever now crawling into a house fire. I have amazing video and pictures of this too, right? So he's ready to go, and he gets up to the door, and so because initially when I first came in, the door was open. I actually go up, I shut the door. You see on the video because to limit the amount of oxygen that the fire's getting, right? So we open the door, and I said to him, when you open that door, the fire's going to meet you there. So as soon as he opens the door, the fire comes blowing out the door, right? He starts knocking the fire down. Anyway, they go in. The girl's not even there, right? So we didn't even have to make a rescue. She ended up being outside, but it's like in the middle of the day. The point I'm trying to make was the experience. So Joey initially goes down the stairs, knocks the fire down the stairs, comes back out, and I'm watching. I'm literally sticking my head inside the doorway, and I could see up the stairwell. And I said to the officer, I said, "Hey, keep them at the top of the stairs. Don't go any further beyond that, right? Because I can see the conditions changing pretty significantly." So they go up to the top. Fire's out. Everybody's safe. We go back to the firehouse, and so now we're doing a post-incident analysis, right?
Well,
Debrief. And so I come to Joey, and I said to Joey, when you got to the top of the stairs, what were the conditions like? Because he's at the tip of the spear, right? He's at a nozzle.
Yeah.
I said, what were the conditions like for you at the top of the stairs? And he looks at me and goes, "Oh, Kev, I didn't go upstairs." I said, you didn't go up the stairs? And he goes, no, I never went upstairs. And I said, hold on, let me play the video. Because I stuck my head in there. I can clearly see his name on, at the top of the stairs on his turnout coat, right?
Yeah.
But see, this is the perception this is stress, right?
Yeah.
I was so overwhelmed with the amount of stress. He had no memory of it, right? So I show the video. I go, "Isn't that your name on that coat right up there?" And he goes, "Wow, yeah, I don't remember that." He had no recollection of it.
Oh my God.
So the next morning, right? I'm out having coffee, and he comes out. He goes, "Cav, I remember everything now. I remember being up there now." And I was like, "Okay, tell me about it."
It was like a revelation.
And no, really, because I've experienced this.
Just sucked in,
But
going to sleep.
I've experienced this over and over and over in my career.
Subconsciously, it happened.
Because his brain see an experience without reflection and understanding. It's just interesting, right? Like if you have a novel experience in something and your brain doesn't know how to process it, it needs time to sit with it, like Kiera was saying, right?
Yeah.
So what happened to him overnight, he laid in bed in the firehouse, and probably you lay in bed after a rescue and you play every little detail over and over and over. His brain had to unpack it and codify it and get him to have an actual experience. So then the experience came after the call, like after the next day, where his brain had time to sit with it, to think about it, to I don't want to say heal, but in a sense, process the information. And then the next day, after the letdown, after the experience really took hold, he was like, "I remember that now." It was amazing to see it because we all do it.
Yeah.
Like if you've been in a high stress situation in the moment, if you don't understand it either, like if you see something, I remember one of the first house fires, I'm crawling in, and I remember like I didn't have knowledge. So you see something without knowledge, you can't understand it. Right?
Yeah.
As a young firefighter, fire's blowing out the first floor, we crawl to the second floor. When I get up there, we force the door to the apartment and we get in, and every plug is burning. This is an old 3-story, a 3-decker, as we call them, a 3-story wood frame tenement house. And And I'm a young firefighter. I didn't know building construction. I didn't know anything. I just remember every plug is burning. We go back to the firehouse and I say to one of the older guys, I said, I can't believe how quickly that fire spread, an electrical fire spread. And he's like, what are you talking about, electrical fire? I was like, yeah, we got it to the second floor and all the plugs were burning. He goes, no, you idiot. That's a balloon frame building. The fire was in the walls. Like the fire was all around us, right? But I didn't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So even though I was seeing it, my brain couldn't process that.
I love how I was like, you idiot.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it said to me. I mean, I'm 17 years old, right? I was 16.
I didn't know,
And
man.
at 16 years old, I'm like, I never had that experience. It's novel, and I don't have knowledge.
So I couldn't understand it. Yeah. So I couldn't understand what was happening. And that same kind of thing happened to Joey, but it happens to all of us. And anybody listening here, I'm sure you can go back to a time where you had a rescue.
Yeah.
And things were blurry. And then, like what happened in the moment. And then you laid with it. You went back to your bunk and you laid in bed and your mind's running that thing over 100 times. And that's when the true experience happens.
I totally do. And I think about it quite often because it's like recreating, like, how would I have done something different? And what would I do next time?
I'd like to take it even a step further.
Love it.
Because I had a coach once who really codified what confidence. Where do you get confidence, right? Because so you went on a bunch of rescues, and now all of a sudden, you were probably cocky, but no, I'm just teasing him. Like, he said that confidence is a memory of success. Think about that.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Confidence is a memory of success. So when it's not cockiness, right? When you have confidence, because it's a fine line to walk because you've had these experiences and you were successful in that. So when you show up the next time, you're like, yeah, we did this last time. We could do it again.
Yeah.
Right. So where do you get confidence from? And everything from, so like Kiera had some confidence because she kept doing, training, and she would come here and she would do skills. So she had this level of confidence, and probably at 10 years old, some cockiness too. I definitely think,
Oh yeah, definitely.
but it's that memory of success. Like, I did it last time, I was successful, I can do it again.
Yeah.
And that's where confidence really,
Yeah.
think about that from where it comes from.
Dude, I love that. Yeah, I'm going to steal that from you. Okay.
Please. Yeah.
Thanks.
Give me credit one time.
Okay.
Then after that, it's yours.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Kiera, I need to come back to you because your dad has all these epic stories from being a firefighter for so long, but I do want to hear one or two more stories out of the hospital that stand out to you.
You just sprung that on me.
Yes.
That's difficult. Like good stories?
Doesn't matter. The stories that stand out to you. I mean, you've been in the hospital for a couple of years now, right? And like when I worked at the hospital, there are a couple that stand out to me, and it could be something as simple as we had an old lady that came in, and next thing you know, I'm cleaning her of her own feces because she was just old. And actually, that was the last.
That was my job.
Yeah,
That was my
yeah,
job
okay.
description.
So, as a matter of fact, that was the last day in the hospital for me. I was like, I don't get paid enough to do this, and that was it. I was still working the ICU part time after that, but the ER, I was like, no. I jump out of helicopters. Like, come on, man. So
The
anyway.
ER is like the wild, wild west.
Totally.
I think that bystander CPR is so, so important. But one story that we did have that was very emotional for all of us was we had I'm pretty sure she was 25. She was 25 years old and she was running. And it to me, it's just so crazy to think that even the healthiest of people can suddenly go into cardiac arrest. And so she was on a run, and she had dropped on the side in the middle of the street, cardiac arrested, and we had a bystander perform CPR. However, these things don't always work. So she had come into us, and we did everything that we could, but unfortunately, she ended up passing away. And for her family to come in, and for all of us to experience how devastated her family was tragic. But through the devastation, they were still so grateful to that bystander who performed CPR. And I think that is a major role that you can play, even if a call or not even a call, just an instance doesn't go the way that you want it to. because I think that her family still had hope, and they were still grateful for that little hope that they were given.
Yeah.
It didn't play out in the end. So that is one story that does stick with me. But my job was very eclectic of the things that I did.
Here you go on though. I'm curious. It's like, what do you think the family had comfort knowing that she wasn't alone?
That, and I think they found comfort in the fact that everybody around her did everything that they could do.
Totally agree with you.
So even if it doesn't go right, you still have to step in.
Yeah.
You still have to perform CPR or whatever it is that person needs, because it goes further than just that person. It goes further even to the providers that were working that day.
Yes.
But yeah, that was very difficult. And so back to my job being eclectic. One of the things, this is kind of a funny story that I like to tell, but one of my jobs in the emergency room was to sit for psychiatric patients who are having psychiatric emergencies. And
She says that so well. Usually we would not say it like that. We just would.
I was laughing in the background to that. That was terrible. I'm like, oh my gosh.
And there are many, many people who come into the emergency room who have very valid psychiatric emergencies. And we, in those instances, try our best to handle that with care and with empathy and do everything that we can. Because a lot of times, the mental health crises in America is so prevalent these days. And a lot of that is based on resources. And so we, with limited beds available in inpatient psychiatric units, we would see patients for many days on end within the emergency room. And it's really difficult as a provider to sit there and watch that, because we can't give them what they need to a certain extent. And these people have to sit there in rooms with, they may have a TV. I think there's 5 rooms in our emergency room it's a separate unit for psychiatric patients. There were only 5 rooms in there, but we never only had 5 psychiatric patients. And so only 5 people, and most of the time it really went with who's been there the longest. They would get TVs that were bolted to the wall that have, coverings, and depending what the people were there for, they would have other patients around them who had more urgent emergencies. And one room could be a 19-year-old who's suffering with depression, in the sense that, and one of their main things, they're a college kid. And the person next to them could be having in a state of delirium, and they may be having delusions of grandeur, and there are other emergencies that they may be acting in a way that's very disruptive to somebody else. So it's hard to kind of match psychiatric emergencies together in the emergency room. But so there was this one person who she had come in prior, and I had known her. But that day, and one thing about psychiatric emergencies is each one is never the same, even if it's the same person.
Yep.
She had always been very, very kind to me. And I had even had pictures, because the only activity that we were really able to give them, depending on their state, which the books that we had on hand weren't good ones. They were donated. They were ones people didn't want. And we could give them crayons. And if they had a phone, they sometimes may be able to keep their phone. But a lot of elderly people who came in with these emergencies didn't have phones. And a lot of these people were unhoused and couldn't afford a phone. And besides that, she had drawn me a picture before, and she was just very kind to me. And so when I got put in her sit station, I was happy. I had known this woman, and so I was bringing her tray of luncheon, and we had sliding doors, and it was plexiglass, or would pop out. Nobody would ever break it into shards. But so I opened the door and I kind of knocked. And I said, and now, despite it being glass and we have to be able to see them, I tried my best to give them as much privacy and as much autonomy as possible, because they're in a state in an emergency room where they have no autonomy. And so I knocked on the door and I walked in and I was like, hello, I have your lunch for you. She sat up and she's like, oh, sweetheart, thank you so much. You can just come on in, just open that door all the way. So I opened the door all the way. To my discretion, I had no idea that there were landmines everywhere. So
Oh my gosh.
And landmines, I mean these things that I'll describe them. She had urinated in the water cups that we had been giving to her and placed them in different parts of the room. So I opened the door, knocked over, all over the floor.
Oh my
She's like, oh, that's my ginger ale. I just placed it there. Oh, okay, no worries. Walk over, move a little bit. I move the table, another landmine everywhere.
Oh.
And I kept doing it, and there were around 4. Find out that she had been urinating in all of these cups and placing them so that I would purposely knock them over. And I forget what she was in there for specifically. But
oh my gosh.
I think that says too that even if a person comes in prior and they acted a way, the way they act may not be the same as it is in front of you. So that day I heavily cleaned my shoes, the bunch of purple wipes.
Oh my gosh.
If you know what a purple wipe is, then
Kills everything.
everything, even you.
That's
a joke,
Yeah.
because you can't use them without gloves. But yes, so that was something that really, really stuck with me. And I went home and I was like, you know what? It was kind of funny.
Funny, not funny.
Funny, not funny.
My favorite line in that situation is, ma'am, you're making it really hard for us to be nice to you.
But
Oh
yes,
my gosh.
and not all psychiatric patients who are having emergencies are like that.
No,
I have met many
Agreed.
who are very kind.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing those. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to circle into a little bit of the book. And one of the stories that stands out to me, which is why I want to say this, is you'd mentioned it earlier, trying to give loved ones a little more time to say goodbye. And what was interesting for me is I was down in Curacao. I was doing some training down there. And while we are out flying, doing our training, we had like emptied half the helicopter with all the EMS gear. Well, the call comes in over the radio, says, hey, CPR in progress on the beach. Do we want to take it? Are you guys comfortable? Because we're only there for the training side. Or do we go back and grab all this gear and equipment? And it was like, you know what? Let's just go. CPR is already in progress. Let's just go. We've got a small airway kit here, so we know we can take the air out. We put an OPA, NPA in, and then just breathe and do compressions. And then it's another like 15-minute flight to the base where we'll have an ambulance ready to go. Brad, you and I have been overseas to different countries. So Curacao was okay. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. The EMS systems are different.
Yes. Oh, what a great way to put that. That was brilliant. Brilliant.
I get some experience.
Yeah. So we land, we grab the patient, CPR is in progress, we carry him into the helicopter, we continue CPR. Unbeknownst to me at the moment, his wife jumped in the helicopter with us. Helicopter door gets closed, everybody's clear for takeoff, we take off, we're flying. I'm doing compressions, my buddy's on airway. At one point or another, we stopped, and the other guy that was with us started compressions, and his wife leaned over to me, is like, is my husband going to be okay? And like a wave of emotions came over me at that point. I'm like, one, what are you doing here? And number two, I'm like, we're doing everything we can. Now this nice elderly lady is like, is he going to be okay? And now I'm like, I'm feeling emotional about this. Like, I'm doing everything I can. I'm doing my job, but I have her watching me. I'm like, oh my gosh. So fast forward a little bit. We land. We get a pulse, weak pulse at that. We got the AED in. We had a seasoned paramedic on the ground, intubated the patient, and he got put into the ambulance. Ambulance sitting on the tarmac for a little bit, and we're like, he's got a pulse. get him to the hospital. They finally transport him. When they get to the hospital, they bring the pulse back. They have him. He's alive in the hospital. No brain activity. So drowning, backtrack, he drowned. They pulled him out. They started CPR fast enough. We get him in. We get him there. This was an opportunity for her to say goodbye to her husband because they ended up pulling the plug about, I think, 2 days later. But the doc came back and said, whatever you guys did was awesome because it allowed that to happen, right? I understand what you're saying with your dad and your mom with you had an opportunity to say goodbye to your dad in an extended version, right? I also understand that like not having that opportunity with your mom and your grandmother, right? So what I would like to do now is to bring in this to you guys of this is the premise behind the book of that, the saved effect and the after. So bring me into some of the stories that you guys have and like, what are we talking about?
I think that there's, and it's something that you mentioned, there's, as providers, there's a curtain between our patient and their life. And many times it's something that we need to do. We need to put that curtain up, you know, in surgery, they close the eyes, they put a curtain up so you can't see the person's face because that humanizes them. And within this book, we wanted to humanize these people. We want to bring the emotions. And like I said, emotions are tied so heavily to memory that for the layperson, these stories, if you go and you read them, we're hoping that you're inspired to learn CPR and get educated. However, the willingness to act can only come from experience because we'll talk about the bystander effect. When there's more people around, the less likely you are to act. So if somebody collapses in the middle of the road and there's 15 people around, that's 15 times less that somebody's going to step forward and start CPR.
Right.
So with these stories, we hope for the layperson who is the bystander that they now have these such emotionally charged, powerful stories in the back of their mind that when that does happen, they not only have the education, but they know that they need to bypass their biology to step forward and to save somebody's life. And for the healthcare provider, we talked about it before, but it's for that person to connect that why, because we all say that we cope through dark humor and these jokes, but in reality, it's just coping. Right. We have to separate that emotionality from our jobs, because if we embrace it too much, then we aren't able to do it as well. So that's a fine line that we have to toe constantly, and we need to bring empathy back into EMS. It's never left. It's just kind of been overshadowed.
Yes.
And we need to bring ourselves back to why we do it. And I talk about how if you go downstairs and you look at the EMT students who are 18, 19, 20 years old, they're full of life. But if you look at the instructors who have been in EMS for 40 years, not you, it's a little dimmed. They've seen stuff.
Yeah.
And these experiences now shape the way they view the world.
Right.
But the EMT students have hope. And their mission in going into this, most of the times, is that they want to save people, is that they want to help people. And so I think that this book really reminds the emergency medical worker, because it's not just EMS, it's not just military, it's not police, it's emergency room too, that this is why we do it. We do it for the families, we do it for the friends, we don't only do it for our patients. So I think that in a sense, we're really just bringing the curtain up and we're exposing the patient to everything that comes after.
So the after, I love the fact that you just said that, because one of the things that you guys do is you talk about the incident that happened, like the incident of your dad that you brought up. Like, so unfortunately, the guy that I had passed away, right? That gentleman, his wife went on to do a whole bunch of stuff. But what you guys are talking about is like what these survivors, the people that lived beyond this and what they've done past and the impact that they've done in the world, not just like, so.
Yeah. I think we have to go back to the name, right? So I had a different name for the book. And after Kiera and I started to, after she finally, after 5 times it turned me down, she finally came back and I said, okay, but I'm not so sure about the name. And so I'll let Kiera talk about where the name came from and why it's important, why the name is important.
I spoke about earlier how I had gone back to my dorm and I was sitting there and I was toying with how I was viewing and perceiving our project and our journey. And I didn't like the name he had because I didn't think it encapsulated our
Can we
moral
share it?
theme.
What was the original name?
It was just saved.
Oh,
So it's not bad.
oh, that's not bad. That's not
No.
terrible.
However, I don't think that it really truly encapsulated the moral theme of what we were trying to portray with this project.
Okay.
So I had been thinking about what it was really about, and the butterfly effect came to my mind. So I went to my dad and I said, have you heard of the butterfly effect? And he said no. So in short, it's a butterfly flapping its wings in South America and causing a tornado in Texas.
Right.
These micro decisions and these minute happenstances can cause catastrophic outcomes because of it. And so I brought it to him and I said, this is what the butterfly effect is. And it's so similar to what we're trying to portray because these teeny tiny decisions made by bystanders who decided to spend 10 minutes of their lives performing CPR on somebody then went on to change the entire future and what that person can now do. And so I said, this is its own effect. This isn't the butterfly effect. This is the saved effect.
That's awesome.
See, I said to her,
Gosh, that's cool.
I was like, that is brilliant.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
And another proud dad moment. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, seriously, like that's where the name comes from. And I think
That's so
that
cool.
was so important is that
Yeah.
because we were trying to portray the life after and life, not just the life, meaning the person, but life after the save. And how did it impact, just like that butterfly flapping its wings, what was the result of that? And I went back to, when she said that to me, I really went back to the Future, right? When Michael J. Fox was going back to the future, and if he did something, talk to his mother or father or whatever it was, interacted in some way, it would change the entire future.
Right.
Which may include that he wasn't even there.
Right.
Right? Maybe they didn't get married. Like all these things, these little things that would lead up to a different future.
Yeah.
So having that moment of time when someone is saved, and then what is the story that came after? And we as first responders and we as healthcare workers, we generally never thought about that. We didn't think about like what was the true impact.
Yeah.
That one day, that one life in the moment, because life is about moments.
Right.
That moment changed everything, and that's positive and negative, right? And there's a great in the introduction, I really kind of unpack a metaphor of what the ripple effect really is. And so when we start to think about the stories in there, and including my own dad, these other stories of these folks who lived, John Perino is another story in there. John lived 27 years post resuscitation. Wow. And in the book, his daughter, is a great story about how his daughter basically, after he passed away, and my partner that day, Jack Lynn, is now the Abington fire chief. And Jack and I were working together. And by the way, it's like the moment that brought us to where we were in the exact time when that call came in. It's almost like, if you don't believe in a higher power or some other, I mean, it is amazing. And we have these little breadcrumbs in this, including my own story of me. And I'll let you read that because I nearly died.
Yes.
Right.
So I did know this.
I know you did. I know. I will leave it for the book, but
Okay.
it's these aspects. I mean, we can talk a little bit about it, but these are these moments, right, where, because of the circumstances that led up with bystander CPR, right, John going to cardiac arrest on the dance floor in a Polish club, and bystanders stepping in, bridging the gap for us to get there.
Yeah.
John lived another 27 years,
That's awesome.
and he got to walk both his daughters down the aisle. Oh, he got to raise his grandchildren. He got to meet his great-grandchildren. Wow. And so the true impact of that night, of course, could never happen in the moment. It couldn't even happen the next year, the year after, the year after, the year after. It took this incredibly long arc of time, and me to be old enough in EMS and Jack to be old enough in EMS that that we were able to really go back and say, wow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you make a rescue and you don't know what's going to happen. You know, we have this other story, this young lady in there. And because she was saved that day, she just got into Harvard. She's 18 years old.
She's trying to change Massachusetts legislature.
Right? Oh my, around CPR. And that is amazing. And she could be the future president.
Wow.
I mean, so we have no idea what Madeline's story is going to be, but we know that one day in that restaurant, if she had died that day, then none of this would be. And it's not just that, right? Because you think about an 8-year-old. I've been to calls with negative outcomes of children. Mom and dad rarely survive that. And I don't mean that they kill themselves, that they rarely survive as a family.
Yeah, right.
Right? Because there's usually a blame somewhere. Somebody begins to blame one or the other. So I've seen the result of a child dying and then the blame of that. Right? Because it's hard to live with, hey, you know, if you weren't there and all of a sudden your wife was there and your child died, there has to be some, I don't say have to be, but sometimes there's some level of guilt there, right? And then
For reasons to blame.
Correct. Yeah, if you had only done this, if you had only done this,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Yeah, if you'd only been watching him and he wasn't in the pool.
Right.
I can tell you, with Kiera growing up, she was so unpredictable so many times. I mean, honestly, like one day I was in the bathroom and Kiera, at 2.5 years old, defeated the child locks on the door by watching her older siblings, and now all of a sudden I'm in the bathroom and I hear swoop swoop. She opens the door and she's out.
Son of a.
And then we can't find her.
Oh god.
It's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm running around the house. Like Bridget's running the neighborhood looking for her with the kids. They like got a posse together. And all of a sudden-
Bridget's the best
Yeah,
line
she's
is Bridget's
judgy.
line.
Yeah.
What was it?
What
You
lost
lost Kiera?
right? And so judgy,
Oh,
so
that's
judgy.
great.
And
But
and
like,
then
think about Family Lane.
Yeah.
exactly. And then mom would have never forgiven me. And I hear beep 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 beep. And I go out. I literally, I'm looking inside the house because Kiera would hide everywhere sometimes.
Cabinets.
Bridget's got the kids in the neighborhood running around, and it literally is 100 degrees outside. And I hear the horn, and I go outside. Kiera's in the minivan, sweating like crazy. It's got to be 130 degrees inside the freaking car, and she's blowing the horn, and she's driving. Big smile on her face. Beep 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 beep. I come walking up to the van. She hits the lock button. And she's in like I'll never forget, she's in a purple nightgown. And I'm like, Kiera, open the door. Nope. She's driving, blowing the horn. I'm standing there, she's blowing the horn, beep, beep, beep. So I'm like, Kiera, open the door. Nope. So I go inside, I get the key, not the key, but the fob, right? Yep. So I click the fob and I go to open the door. She hits the goddamn thing. Now we're playing this game. I gotta literally time it and open the door and grab her out of the bloody car. But I mean, in the moment, right?
Oh, God,
and I
that's
reflect
funny.
back on that
That's
day.
awesome.
It's like if she didn't blow the horn, if she just kind of crawled up in that car and went to sleep, we wouldn't have found her.
No,
Like I wasn't thinking like go. I went to the pool.
Yeah.
Like when she was missing, I went to the pool right away. I wasn't thinking about the car. But God forbid, I mean, she spent another 20, 30, 40 minutes in there. She's unconscious, unresponsive, her body temperature's through the roof, and she dies from heat exposure.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know if there's no way my wife would ever I should say no way, but I mean, it would have been very hard for us as a couple to get beyond that because I was responsible.
Right. Oh yeah.
Right. So you think about what was it? It's not just that one individual. God forbid Madeline died that day. What would it have done to her family?
Yeah.
Like what were her siblings? She has siblings. That could have really messed them up. I know some folks who lost some kids and their siblings were messed up.
Oh yeah.
Like really bad. And so we just never know what the outcome will be. And if it's, but what's the positive part? What if they live? But what if they die? So really, that's what the saved effect is all about. Is because we talked yesterday. Dr. Tevi was here with us, and we talked about like what is a save? That neurological intact patient to discharge, and then what happens later on, right? It's like we were explaining yesterday as when I was a young paramedic, you got a heartbeat back. That was a save,
Right.
and then over time it was like, that's not a save. The save is when they walk out of the hospital and they're neurologically intact and we send them whole back to their family,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
That's a save. Grabbing someone out of the ocean and doing CPR on them. I mean, in our world, like, yeah, we got that person, right? It's like dragging a patient out of a house fire, but if they didn't live, even though we made a grab, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we felt in essential like, okay, we gave them a shot,
Yeah.
right? We had some hope for some of the, maybe a family member, we're doing CPR, they didn't die alone, whatever it is, right? But at the end of the day,
It's not safe.
it's not safe, right?
Right.
We lost him. And it's funny because Ryan Cabral, he's gonna kill me. Ryan's one of my he's a lieutenant now on my department, but I raised him as a young paramedic. I was his first company officer, he made a grab out of a house by an elderly lady, and she passed away. And he didn't like tell anybody, like, no, I mean, he said, I said to him, like, I'm like, Ryan, you did an amazing job. Like, that was, he goes, but she died. It wasn't a save. Because I've been telling him for years, right?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't count. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, there's a difference between doing CPR on somebody and risking your life and going down the hallway and going to the back bedroom and the fire's still ripping on the other side of the house and you almost don't make it out. Like, that's a little bit different, but still, he's right? Like,
Totally.
that the woman didn't live, and so, and that's a difficult struggle as a someone who's involved in rescue and
For sure.
is involved in those high stakes environments of even though it wasn't your fault, right? Like, it'd be one thing if you're bringing up that live person and you drop them off of the line, right? They go back into the ocean, and then you that stays with you forever, right? Where it was your fault, you know what I mean? I always say I always say to students here is like, it's not your fault, it's just your problem. Well, unless you ran them over with an ambulance, of course.
Now it's your fault and your problem.
Yeah. So I think it's a different way to look at it, but that I think, Kiera, talk a little bit about the psychology behind some of the stories and the way that the stories panned out and shaped the future. I think that's important. And if you go back, let's just talk a little bit about, we don't want to spoil it for them, but talk a little bit about that day in Madeline's story. Or that's a great story. Or we can talk a little bit about Ryan and Jay and their story. But I'll let you choose. I think both of those are important stories in the book.
I think Madeline's story is one that I see myself a lot in Madeline. And I think it's because she was 8 years old when she needed the care that I learned. And she was up I say up, we're in Massachusetts, Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire. And she was on a family vacation, wanted to cut her own steak, took a bite, and it became lodged in her airway. She accounts it so vividly that she stood up at the table and she looked at every single person who loved her most in the world, and not a single one of them could save her life. And it wasn't until a young nurse came over and said, let's try this. Performed the Heimlich maneuver, dislodged the piece of steak, and Madeline was able to breathe. She then went on to high school to open up a chapter of the American Red Cross and go out into her community. She pitched the idea to a local restaurant group, a bank, and she received funding to go into her community, teach all of the restaurants in her community how to perform the Heimlich maneuver, how to do CPR. The wait staff, the chefs, everybody. And then she constantly
She built a team of other people, like other kids.
She's now still going out into her community and teaching CPR. She then realized that it's not a state requirement to become CPR certified to graduate high school. So she's working with Senator Bruce Tarr to now go to present it to the Senate of Massachusetts that this is a requirement and needs to be a graduation requirement.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's huge.
And she was doing this all at 16 years old. So she's 18 years old and she's heading to Harvard in the fall.
Phenomenal.
And we can never conceptualize how many lives she will save because her life was saved.
But think about if she died that day, right? And she was in an area where that restaurant is a volunteer ambulance squad. They have to tone them out. They have to come in and get the ambulance. By the time they get there, her chance of survivability is 0, right?
Yeah,
But she had
right.
obstructed airway, so we're probably talking more than 10 minutes,
Yeah.
right, before anyone gets to her.
Yeah.
And so here, if it wasn't for a bystander who had knowledge, skill, and ability and the willingness to step forward. But there's another piece that Kiera actually unpacked that I hadn't really thought about. And this is why it's so valuable to have her with me, during this journey.
I love it.
Because talk about her parents.
Well, yeah, I mean, as a parent, and I'm not a parent yet, so I can only imagine. I am an aunt.
Okay.
I can only
like that.
imagine how difficult it is in a situation like that to hand over your prized possession to a complete stranger. Not only a complete stranger, but somebody who looks, and her dad described this nurse as so young.
I mean, that would be you, right?
Yes.
So you're at that age, that first nursing
Yes.
graduation, 23 years old,
Yes.
finished up.
So now imagine giving your prized possession to this person, not knowing if they could actually save her, and putting the fate of your daughter's life into somebody else's hands with it's different when somebody comes in a uniform with a badge or anything. You immediately think that this person's qualified. But somebody in plain clothing who looks extremely young, you have to be the bigger person in that sense to step aside and to have somebody else help your daughter. And her parents did. And thank God they did, because imagine now this person just comes up and they're like, no, we're trying everything we can. We're doing it. We don't need help. And they lose their daughter's life.
My own curiosity with some of this and what you have in the book, did you ever get in touch with the nurse?
We tried. However, Madeline and her dad said that they are Facebook friends and that the nurse does get to see Madeline grow up and know that she's doing
So
amazing
that's
things.
cool. And I asked that because, like we mentioned it earlier, like the fact that that nurse has seen, that's not normal for our world. It's not. The only guy that I keep in touch with, and I use that word keep in touch with loosely, is Captain Shoemaker from the biggest rescue that I ever had. And the saved effects side of it for him is he went on after the incident and he was teaching all the safety protocols for all the fishing industry that go up to Alaska. Like his impact has been huge based on what he lived through and him and I lived through. So that is amazing. I'm so happy to hear that the nurse is still in touch with their lives. That's awesome.
Now I'll give you another part of a story, right? Like my dad.
Yeah.
The two bystanders, when we we knew about them, we and I actually went to the fire department. I talked to the lieutenant from the agent company. I talked to the ambulance guys, thanked them all. But it was the bystanders that we really didn't know. And so my sister knew that there was one woman there, that her kids were there, but she didn't really know the other person that was there. And so it was through the research here. Now, my sister had reached out to Ashley and had thanked her. But interesting enough, when we talked to both of them, so my dad passed away in 2022. And so this was last year, 2025, right? So 3 years later, they had no idea what the outcome was.
Wow.
And so it wasn't until we sat in this room and then I talked to Scott on the phone and I remember both of them saying, I always wondered what happened to your dad. And they never knew it. Then we interviewed Rich Plastow, who was the guy from the Polish club. And and he never knew the outcome. He didn't know they lived 27 years.
Unreal.
And not only did
How long did it take him to find out that he did?
Until we connected with him. And I only found him through the research. When we were researching each one of these stories, we tried to get the connection. We tried to find that person and then interview him. We actually brought Rich here, and we didn't actually get the other woman, but we did get him. And because I remember walking in, I even say in the book, he was doing compressions and he was doing great CPR. right? So it never really hit me in the moment, because in the moment we always, we're like, hey, thank you for doing CPR. Boom, that's it. You never have a discussion with those people. You're not getting a name,
Right.
But you also don't think about how that impacts true bystanders.
Yeah.
Right. Well, come to find out, Rich was an off-duty Mansfield firefighter EMT. And when I finally found that, their retired deputy, who was a good, is a friend, I called him. I said, hey, do you know this guy, Rich Plastow? He's like, yeah, that guy's amazing. We worked together forever. I was like, have you ever heard the story? He goes, I think I heard that story. He was like, I said, can you put me in touch with him? So he connected me with Rich. And so we brought Rich in here and we interviewed him and found the story. It was like amazing. But he didn't know the outcome.
Yeah.
So here's this EMT stepped in 1997, November 1997, 27 plus years later. He never really heard the end of the story. And now all of a sudden we're telling him how he lived all these years because of what you did.
And everything you did in between.
Correct.
27 years of life is a long time.
Quarter of a century.
That's
4 years more than my life.
the things that he did, and again, walking his daughters down the aisle, seeing his grandkids.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that. When we interviewed like Frank's children, one of his daughters talked about how, his father was there for a really, really difficult season in her life. Like when her husband had a stroke, and then when he passed away, like her dad was there for her.
Wow.
And showed up for her children. Like would pick them up from school and take them to soccer games and do all the things that her husband and couldn't do, and that would have never happened if he died that day. He was her rock during this entire thing. Those are the things that just resonated with us so much. And we're like, we have to tell these stories. We have to get this out, because what we do is we want people to feel those visceral connections to the stories.
Yeah.
So that they're willing to act, because they know, like, hey, true bystanders stepped in and helped save this guy. Now we know that it wasn't just them, right? There's a whole chain of survivors.
Of course. Yeah.
But if it wasn't for them, none of this would have happened.
Right.
So, and there's another psychology around, do you see yourself as the helper? Do you see yourself as the one that will step forward? Do you have what it takes? And most of the time, if you haven't thought about it before an incident, that's where the hesitation comes in. That's where the bystander effects come in. But if you see yourself, like all three of us here, and it's happened to my family so many times.
So many times.
We're somewhere, like we're in Disney, lady's choking, Bridget steps in, say the lady, right? Like, and we don't think about it for 2 seconds.
No,
I was like, oh, you okay? And then that's it. We call it fire and EMS. They show up. We're like, okay, see you later. We're out on Disney. We're out, at the Space Mountain going on a rock, right? Like legit.
And it happens to us so much that we were at dinner a few weeks ago, and I had heard the tones go off at the restaurant that we were at.
On his phone. He's a firefighter paramedic in Duxbury. We're in Duxbury having dinner.
To the point that me and my husband's the only one who's not in the medical field. He's an electrician. Me and my husband, the appetizers arrive. We go, you guys got that. We continue eating.
Me and Brett get up, like it's on the other side of the restaurant. We can see like some commotion down there. Yeah. And it came in as a syncopal episode, right? So Brett gets notification on his phone, and here we are. And of course, the guys from the fire department show, they're like, oh, what are you two doing here? But we're already over there talking to family, checking on the guy. But it's just who we are, right?
Yeah.
And we won't think, even if we did compressions on that guy, we wouldn't think for 1 second about what happened after. We might say, hey, did the guy make it? Yeah. Oh, he made it. Oh, good. That was nice. He made it. Okay. Can we move on?
That's totally true.
But what really comes after?
Yeah.
Gosh, it reminds me of my own story. Can I share with you one?
Of course.
So my wife and my mother-in-law and I are in Germany, and we're walking through some of the Christmas markets, and there's some commotion that happens just around where we are. I see a lady on the ground. I'm like, oh, geez. I run over to her, pick her up. I'm like, oh my gosh, and she's kind of out of it. She's a little delirious. I'm like, are you okay? And we sit her down, and I'm talking to her. Of course, I don't speak German. She doesn't speak English. But I mean, it was a bit of a conversation, and then all it was like, I'm looking around. I was like, does anybody speak English? Yes. Go call 911 or whatever the number here is in this country. I saw some paramedics down the road. Go get them. And that is your job. I'm like, oh, there we go. Look at that. Like, this is your job, you go. And sure enough, about within 3 minutes, I have 2 people with full on med kits show up. And this lady is kind of like in and out. I'm like, hey, stay with me, stay with me. And you could see it happening. But I remember like walking away, like after the medics got there and they're doing all their thing. And okay, they're stretch her over and they're starting to wheel her away. And my mother was like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I just helped her up and sat her in a seat and make sure like you stay awake. But thinking about that, for me, it was 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes of my time, my life. That's it. For her and everybody else around it, like what came after? I have no idea. I couldn't even tell you her name.
And that's the thing. It could be 10 minutes of your life, but the rest of theirs.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. So with all of that, Brad, here's what I like. I want one more story. I can't get enough of this stuff. You know this. It's ridiculous. But if you don't mind, you mentioned earlier that you have a bit of your own story within this book and what happened to you. Can you give us a little teaser on that before we close this out?
Okay. So I think this goes to not just the rescuer rescued, this also goes to recognition as a problem. So I was one of my first few shifts as a shift commander. I was actually a lieutenant acting out of grade. My shift commander was off that night, and we got a reported fire in a healthcare facility. And this was the Sinai Hospital. It was a rehab hospital. I mean, it had 50 bed patients in it. I mean, it was a good sized hospital that we went there all the time for really, really sick patients. And we had a reported fire in the basement. And, I could feel my heart rate racing, right? Like this is the first time. And because you truly will never feel the weight of command and the responsibility of command, of sending people into harm's way, of if something happened bad that day, we lost 10 patients in a fire and, I'm responsible. There's a big difference between just being in charge and being responsible.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be not only in charge, but also responsible for my people and the people that are in this building. And many people will, folks, including in our world, don't feel the responsibility of that. It's kind of like in your world where the pilot is responsible for the entire crew, everybody that's in there.
Correct.
Right? And the weight of that he takes with him every time, not only the people that they might pick out of the water, but also the folks that are in that helicopter.
Agree.
And I'm responsible for the entire shift and everybody, all my firefighters, plus everybody in that building. So I'll let you read we go in, there's a legit fire in the basement, and I have to make some decisions. I don't have enough people to evacuate the hospital. And so I make a decision to protect in place. Close all the fire doors. The best thing we can do in any fire is to put the fire out, right?
Right.
You put the fire out, a lot of problems go away. And so
it's so simple.
it seems simple. It doesn't always work that way, but because the fire has its own mind. And so anyway, the entry company moves in. They knock the fire down. I'm like, oh, thank goodness, right? Like, because I literally have a hospital full of people, and I said to the nursing staff that was there, the nurse manager says to me, I don't have enough people to evacuate the hospital. I said, neither do I. Shut all the fire doors, keep them in place. So we have to protect in place. And if this goes sideways, now I'm already behind the 8 ball. We're gonna have to evacuate all these people, and I'm calling them. I get a mutual aid coming, but it takes a while,
Right.
and so they knock the fire down, and I go downstairs into the basement to evaluate the damage and make sure the fire's out, right? Like my job is to make sure there's no smoldering, no nothing. Like we can't come back and rekindle, right? We're gonna make sure the fire's out. So I get down, I do inspection. Okay, I walk upstairs, I feel some palpitations. Like, now I have hypothyroidism. That's why I'm fat. It's my story. I'm sticking to it. But but I've had palpitations before due to my thyroid condition. And I was like, kind of blow it off. There was another incident, and I had palpitations again. And then I went back to the firehouse. I was doing the paperwork just before it was late at night now. And I go up and I do everything like I tell my students not to do, right? So I feel the palpitations a couple of times, and I'm more exertional now. Like I walk up the stairs, I get palpitations. I come back downstairs. I sit on the back of the engine. Everybody's asleep now. Like everybody's in bed. It's quiet. Firehouse is quiet. I grab the monitor. I sit on behind the engine one. I put myself on. I do it 12 and I print it out. I go, nah, it looks okay. And so I go to bed. And the next morning I wake up, I get some coffee, I go downstairs to do paperwork. And I walk back upstairs to get another cup of coffee. It hits me again. And now I'm having this like tightness across my back. And so I ended up like writing it up, calling my chief on the way home, saying, "Hey, listen, I'm not feeling good." And I knew something's wrong. I'm on my way home, and my sister calls me. My mother was in a major car accident, and she avoiding a deer. That was her story. She's sticking to it,
Okay.
right? So
Or she was.
So anyway, I ended up going to the hospital, but I had called my primary care. I got an appointment. So I find myself the next day in the cardiology office, and the cardiologist says they did a 12 lead pressure, everything looks okay, right? And the doc says to me, based on your family history, because my dad had an MI at 49 and got TPA'd, right? So he's like, based on your family history, you're a firefighter. We should do a stress test. I was like, okay. So I go out to the desk, and the woman's out there, and she's filling out. She goes, the earliest appointment I have is in 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, well, the doc thinks I'm okay. I'm 2 weeks, all right. The phone rings. Literally, I'm standing, and the phone rings, and this gives me chills every time. She says to me, "Hold on." She picks up the phone, and she literally holds up her one finger. She's like, "Hold on." So she hangs up. She said, "I just got an appointment, a cancellation for this afternoon. Do you want the appointment?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right, I'll take it." I went home, put my sneakers on, came back, do the stress test. About 7 minutes into the stress test, I can feel the palpitations. I look up, I'm in SVT at 200.
Holy shit.
And so they're going to do a stress echo. So the nurse is like, "Oh, we're going to slow this down." So she slows it down, and the treadmill. I get off. I'm laying on the stretcher. The doc comes in and does an echo, and he's like, literally, it was a funny moment, right? Because the doc is there, and he's like, "Oh, that doesn't look good. Oh, I don't like that." I literally said, "Hey, doc, I'm laying right here." And he kind of giggled. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Newbury. It's like, geez, your interior wall doesn't look like it's moving well. I think you have a blockage. And I was like, okay, because he's like, do you have? I never had really any like chest pain or anything like that, but I did have some other symptoms I describe in the book. And thank goodness I actually had the mindset to say, okay, something's wrong. I probably need to go get checked.
Yeah.
I did listen to that. No, I probably way later than I should have, but I still listened. I'm laying in the cath lab, and I'm watching the whole procedure. So the doc says to me, "We need to send you to the hospital for a cath." And my wife, and he said, looks at my wife, Kim, he says, like, "Can you drive him?" So literally, I'm in a clinic. I'm not even at a clinic. I'm at the cardiologist's office.
Yeah.
And he says to my wife, "Well, you're a nurse. Can you just drive him to the hospital, to the cath lab?" And she goes, "Okay." Right? So I walk outside. I get in a minivan. Kim's looking over at me. She literally says to me, "You better not die on me." And I was like, "I'm not dying." So we get to the hospital. They do the cath. I have a 99% occlusion of my LAD,
Oh my God.
the Widowmaker,
Yeah.
right? And for the folks in the audience, like that, the nickname of that blockage is called the Widowmaker because it usually kills and makes widows.
Yeah. As soon as
Right.
it hits 100%, done.
And not even 100%.
No.
I mean, I've seen many people at 75, 80, 90% go into arrest.
Wow.
And so here I am, and I went back to my records to make sure it was historically correct because you're still. I had a little bit of Versed on board. I'm trying to remember, but I went back and looked through my records, and there it is, 99% occlusion by LAD. I had a plaque rupture that day at the fire. And I had one vessel that was blocked. Everything else were clean. My arteries were clean. They put one stent in there to save my life.
Unreal.
By the way, that was 2010. The same year that we opened NMETC. So we opened NMETC on April 1st, 2010. Biggest April Fool's joke I ever played to myself. This was November in 2010. And if I had died that day, which literally the cardiologist said to me in recovery, came in, and he said, "Mr. Newbury, I have no idea why you didn't die today or die yesterday." He's like, "It's unbelievable." He's like, "that you didn't go into arrest."
I'll say God wasn't done with you.
I know he wasn't. He wasn't, right? But you think about, I'm standing there, if that phone call didn't happen and that person didn't cancel their appointment, I was going to wait 2 weeks. I would have never survived 2 weeks. I would have survived one more day. Wow. And all of that. And then, here I am. I get one stent and, everything that came after. I was saved that day. I didn't go into cardiac arrest, but you can't get much closer. And because of that, right? Because I lived, and then what happened after, NMETC continued, you would have never come to paramedic school. Think how your life would have changed. Because this was 2010.
Yeah.
That was 2013, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your life would have changed in so many ways that we couldn't even predict, right?
Ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely.
And then think about all the thousands of graduates we've had since then. Since that day, we've had more than 12,000 graduates. And we would have ceased to exist, because if I died, then there was no one that was going to take over the business. Kim had 3 kids at home. She was a nurse, but she wasn't an educator. She wasn't she was an EMT, but she wasn't a paramedic. And so we would have,
It would have shared with you.
Kira's whole life.
I probably would have taken over the school.
It's true. Yeah. There we go.
Sounds about right. Yeah. Certainly motivated. Truly dedicated.
And the only reason I even put that story in the book is because it really reiterates the saved effect.
Yeah.
Really reiterates what would have been different if I died that day. And so that cardiologist doing surgery that day saved my life, and everything that has come after. And I mean, I have a very blessed life in so many ways.
Yeah.
And, I have gone on after that to be involved in other saves, in other resuscitations where people have lived. And so I was saved that day, and I've gone on to save other people. We have another story of another firefighter who went into arrest and saved another life. So he died.
awesome.
He was saved. And it's a phenomenal story, because the kid that found him in the firehouse, as I say kid because he's way younger than me, the guy that found him in the firehouse, it was his second day on duty, second day on the jar. And he was a graduate of our paramedic program. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. A graduation from your paramedic program saved his life, continued a paramedic, came back to life, and saved another life.
Yeah. And Rich actually came and worked as an educator here, and ended up teaching other paramedics. Went on to save other lives.
That is incredible.
The ripple effect of that is unfathomable.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me that one recently. Is like, how many lives do you think have been saved through all of the students that you've had here? I said, there's no way we could put out of that. No way.
Yeah.
And it's so humbling. I mean, there's no ego in that, right? There's incredible humbleness that I feel every day, that we go downstairs, we walk around downstairs, we're going to do that, right? And and all of these people from all over the country that come here, and they're having this incredible impact all over their communities.
Yeah.
And that's the majority of the rescuers, like, as a whole. None of us are around like, oh, look, I just saved that dude. None of us do that. Everybody is like, actually, the majority of the people I know, actually, everybody that's come on this podcast, they just tell a story. Yeah. And that's
We're
like,
just regular
yeah,
people.
well, that's it. Just a regular guy. Just a guy. Yeah.
I had last night I had dinner with Dr. Peter Antevi from the Hantevi system. Peter's an icon in EMS education, and he's resuscitation, and like an amazing guy. I had another another guy that was with us at dinner was Chief John Solka from the FDNY. John is a massive icon in the fire service and fire service education, and his education he's taught for. I mean, I went to his classes more than 20 years ago. And here I could have never in my entire life predicted. I'm sitting at dinner with these two fire and EMS icons.
Yeah.
I'm with Chief Rin, the two of us. He had Chief Salka teaching a class, and Dr. Antebi was here doing a webinar with us, and we went to dinner last night. The conversation at dinner last night was like by far one of the best nights ever I've ever spent with conversations for, in fire and EMS. It was unbelievable. And never could we have ever predicted any of those things, to get to be so humble, sitting there and having these great conversations with people like this. Like, I mean, think about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, I love it. I love it. Man, I appreciate you guys coming on and sharing all this. I'm going to guess one more question before we start plugging the book and telling everybody where they can find it. Piece of advice that you would pass on to everybody else. Kiera, I'm going to start with you.
It doesn't take a certification, a badge, or letters at the end of your name to make a difference in this world, and I think that everybody should step forward even when your brain tells you to step back.
Damn, that's good. Brad, I might leave it at that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Brad, what's yours? Yeah, but you have over 40 years of service, plus the school and everything that you've done. I mean, I know you have good advice. You've been past good advice. You've already given good advice across this podcast, but if you got one more.
For all of our healthcare providers out there, patient care matters. Right on. Think about that. Think about the book and the effect that we have on other people. And it's through your commitment to taking care of people that others live, right? I mean, isn't that the motto of the...
So others may live.
So others may live.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's it right there in its nutshell.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. For everybody out there, go check out The Saved Effect, written by both of you. Brad, where can we find it?
TheSavedEffect.com. The book actually gets delivered August 18th. If you go to our website, TheSavedEffect.com, click on one of the links, go out and buy it where you like to buy books, whether it be Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, anywhere you buy books. And then come back to our website. We have $300 worth of bonuses for your listeners.
Love it.
And listen, if you don't want to wait, immediately when you fill out that form, we're going to send you a digital version of the book. We're going to send you an audio book and a pre-release audio book that Kiera and I recorded here with Jake, and we're going to send you some other bonuses too as well. But those are the two big ones.
Love it.
And we'll do that immediately. So as soon as you buy that book, go get your book on Amazon. Go do it right now, and come back to our website, fill it out, and then you can start reading the book or listen to it. Right, like listen to the book. The audio book will download like a podcast into your podcast Apple device or whatever device you use podcast platform, and yeah.
Thank you guys for sticking with us. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.
Go. Now it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at the Real ResQ. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard.
Out of all the training that you guys have done, what's the funniest story that stands out to you?
So the funniest story goes to we punked my wife. She was,
oh my God, I
was,
love this.
She was,
You're giving me ideas already.
Years ago, one of our, actually kind of funny story, Tim Watkins, who was one of our former an Australian student, a former student of mine, and Tim had actually come back to do some teaching with us from Australia, right? He now lives he lives here in Texas now. He's actually works for Austin Travis County as a flight paramedic.
Oh, nice. What's his name?
Tim Watkins. Tim's with us, and we get I don't know who gave this idea. I don't know what it was. So there was this one student from California that my wife had a real affinity to. Really, it was a young kid, like 20-something years old. Really wonderful young man. And so we knew how Kim, like, I don't want to say he was a favorite, but she really liked this young man because he was so polite. And
damn it, that means I came in second.
Yes. So we came up with this idea. We're going to blame Brandon for something that he really didn't do, right? Tim and I come up with this thing that, so let me just say what happened. So all of a sudden I come out to Kim. She used to be part of our school, and she's in her office. I go, "You're not going to believe this." I said, "Somebody shit in the urinal." And she's like, "No, they didn't." I was like, "Yes, they did." Right? I said, I can't believe it. I don't know why, like what went on. And because I knew this would push her over the edge, right? So what Tim and I did was, we took a brownie from lunch and we rolled it out. Oh my God. And Tim, he's selling the whole thing. He's like pushing corn in it. He's pulling chest hair out. He's pushing it around. He rolls it up and he puts it inside the urinal, right?
Oh my God, that's terrible.
So now I bring my wife in there. Kim looks at this thing and she's like, "Oh my God, I am so disgusted." So we set it up with Brandon because we knew that she was going to stop. Like, I mean, I had a feeling she would want to go out and make a big deal of this. So So she's like, well, I'm going to talk to the class. I'm like, oh, no, don't do that. She's like, oh, yeah, I got to talk to, this is ridiculous. I can't believe somebody did it. It's disrespectful. So she goes into the classroom, like, right after lunch. And now she's like, all right, I need everyone's attention. I cannot believe what happened to the men's room going on. Somebody defecated in the urinal. And before we even move on, I got to know who it was. So Brandon is like, so she's like up there mad as a hornet. And Brandon like raises his hand. He's like, I'm sorry, Mrs. Newbury. She goes, oh, Brandon. Well, that's it. I just start laughing. So I start laughing. Cheers start laughing. My wife is like, you son of a bitch. You too. I knew it was you too. But it was so funny. I go, oh, when you thought it was Brandon, it was going to be okay, right? So, yeah, that was like my funniest training story. We've had some others too, but that had to be the number one time. There was one other quick one that's yeah.
So, wait a minute. Do you have one?
I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I was 9 years old, maybe 10. Oh no, I was 10. And one of the students had challenged me to intubate the mannequin. Shocker. And he said, but we're putting money on it. How about we each bet $1? Winner gets to take the $2. So I go into my dad's office and I
it's $5 because you can't ask me for $5.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
$5. So I come in
on the table. Nice.
and I go, do you have $5? He's like, why? It's his first question. So, well, one of the students is challenging me. He wants to put money on it. So Brad's all in now. He gives me $5 and I go, Joey keeps putting money down and I keep winning. So I come back with $20 and I go, Dad, do you have change for this? He goes, how did you get $20 and why do you need change? I said, well, I want to give you your $5 back. He goes, how did you get $20? I go, well, Joey just kept betting that he could beat me and I just kept winning, so.
True. Oh my gosh, I love it. Gotta love training stories. Oh, brilliant. See, I'm glad I didn't put money on that one. I would have lost it too. All right, last one.
It's during one of the boot camps and Tim's there again. And so we're just regular boot camp. Things are going on. There's a box on my desk and like a shipping box just came in. So I open the box and I pull it out and it's got male and female mannequin parts. Like, so you have the mannequins that you can put in whatever part you want it to be. You want female,
genitalia.
Yeah, genitalia. So I open up the
gathered.
I open it up and I was like, I open it up, I pull one out. And it's got hair on it.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what? And it's like falling on my desk. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, what is going on? I've never seen anything like this before. Well, of course, now I see Tim out there like filming the whole thing. And what they did was they opened the box. They took these things out. Yeah. Tim went in the bathroom, cut a bunch of his like chest hair, glued it to the mannequin. And then they resealed the box and they left it on my desk. And I open it up and it's like, I'm like, oh my God, it looks like real pubic hair. Like, what is it doing? What is this? And everybody there pissing themselves laughing.
Yeah. Oh, great. I love it.
We have a lot of funny stories, but
that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, my pleasure.